for all the Gamergate people out there. And yeah, so this stream is a stream for the LGBT supporters of Gamergate. And as a preface, because I have to get the elephant out of the room, I can tell that this is a sensitive topic. Of course it is, because in society it is still one of those things. And I'm sure there's many of my viewers who maybe they won't admit it, aren't necessarily fully comfortable with persons who are LGBT. And to describe LGBT means lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual. So I can understand that there's people out there who aren't comfortable with the idea, and that's fine because it's one of those topics that people still can't really get over. But the thing you need to understand is that whether or not you may agree with the way these people are, but yeah, you may whether or not you agree with. Sorry, I got confused for a second. Whether or not you agree with it, you have to understand that these are definitely people. So I just hope that when this stream starts, people can, take it with an open mind, and they can understand that these people are here to share their experiences, and we're all in this together. It doesn't matter if you're straight or whatever, if you're white or whatever, guy, girl, black, white, etc. Like this is for all gamers. So yeah, so hopefully we can get a certain amount of people on. I don't think I'll get as many people as I wanted, but at the very least, I hope I can get an interesting stream going. So let's see who can come on. Also, I'd like to mention that because of the sensitivity of the topic, I can imagine there's some people out there who wouldn't want to come on here to talk about it. So I can respect and understand that. Quite frankly, I feel like I can only get a few people on to talk, but as long as we get a few people to share their stories, I think that'll be cool. So hopefully we can get something going. I sent out my first invite, so hopefully we'll get someone to join, and hopefully we'll get more people to join in time. I'll say it to the people who join, but the question is that what's his name? What has your experience of Gamergate been, and why do you support #NotYourShield? So that's the question. It's a bit similar to the Not Your Shield video, but this time I'm just going to mix it up a little bit. So we'll see how this goes. Sorry for all the downtime, because on my own, whereas I could just talk about absolutely nothing, I'd rather other people talk, because I'm not really here for my own ego. I'm here mainly for other people to share their stories. So hopefully we can get something going. We can get people sharing their experiences. I mean, in the meantime, if you have anything to ask, just in general, it doesn't have to be related to the stream. You can tweet at @NotYourShield, and I'll try and answer the best of my ability. Oh, it seems that the person I wanted to get on is busy, so unfortunately we'll have to wait a little while longer. So as I said, if you want to join the stream, tweet at @NotYourShield and express your interest. Give me a follow. I'll follow you back, and I'll private message you the stream invite, so that way we can discuss Gamergate and Not Your Shield. So if you want to join, then you can do it now. As I said, if you have any questions, tweet at Not Your Shield or post a YouTube comment. YouTube comments are a bit harder to see without live chat, but I'll do the best I can to answer anything. I will say though, just to fill up the time, that we're now in week 7 of Gamergate. It's crazy, like over a month, literally a month and 2 weeks. And suffice to say, things have calmed down. Admittedly, we don't have any big revelations, I think, coming. I think everything's already been ousted at this point. I don't think we're going to expect anything completely over the moon just yet. So I think that everything's going fine for Gamergate overall. I think everything's going fine. I think that we've made a lot of progress, and I wouldn't say it's calming down or it's coming to its natural end, but rather I feel like with all these things out of the way, what we have to do now is just take the building blocks and continue to generate interest for it, get more people who are on the fence on our side and say, hey, this isn't about misogyny or racism or whatever, this is actually about journalistic integrity. And once we do that, then we can, I don't know, the movement can reach its natural end, and we can continue to use the idea of it to promote diversity, to promote journalistic integrity, and to bring an end to harassment by self-policing. So that's perhaps the best we can do for now. So I'm still waiting for anyone to join. Remember, if you want to ask a question, I mean, if anyone's listening right now and is willing to tweet or make a comment, I just want to ask, like, what are your thoughts on the way Gamergate's going right now? Like, how do you feel about where we've come and the direction we should go next? In the meantime, I'll check Twitter to see if people are saying anything. I'm just replying to a bunch of stuff on Twitter at the moment, so sorry for the dead air. It seems to happen a lot before people join. So okay, just got a comment from someone says, I don't know about the calming down part. People are still getting doxxed and doxing threats. That is true. I mean, of course, with any Twitter movement of sorts, there is always the fact that things happen. They happen fast, and with 24 hours in a day, and constant internet, people can just talk to people. They can find out stuff. Unfortunately, can find out personal information. They can dox them, harass them, etc. So I can imagine that people on both sides, although we seem to be hearing more on the pro Gamergate side, are getting doxxed and harassed. I don't think there's been as much censorship as there used to be when this first started, and I don't think people are getting uh, I don't know, like death threats or anything like that. I'm pretty sure nobody's gotten fired since Jay Miller, unless I don't know. As an at Jay Miller on Twitter, he was a Polar Roller or whatever his name is. He's the guy who got like fired because people were calling his job, and they got him fired over this. So I don't think anything besides that has happened. I wouldn't say. Well, I mean, when I say it's calmed down, I just feel like we've, the hysteria, the craziness has stopped. Like we haven't got any shocking stories. We're not like, waiting for the next big revelation. Now it's just taking everything we've learned and just applying it. I've noticed that streams are becoming more consistent. People are talking to some people from the other side are moderates. In some cases, getting trolled. In some cases, getting uh, concern trolled, which is a new thing to me. I find concern trolling perhaps the most interesting thing. Uh, I don't think it's all that bad, but we'll have to see. In the meantime, we'll wait. And I'm gonna just point out, because I don't like leaving things awkward. I can see that not many people are either willing to join or they don't realize they can join. But if this stream doesn't get off the ground, I will just give a few closing statements and end it, because I can tell that this isn't going anywhere. Of course, if the stream doesn't go anywhere, I won't put it on my YouTube channel. I'll keep it private, because understandably nothing happened, so there's no point. If there's not enough support for this, I might not do it. I might just put it on ice, leave it behind. I think we've done enough streams, to be fair. And to all my listeners who may or may not know this was predominantly the last stream I was planning to do. So if anyone is wondering about that, then that's basically what's going to happen. So yeah, this is more or less the last stream, unless people have anything that they'd like to do or talk about. And if this doesn't necessarily go well, then at the very least I can just put it on ice. This doesn't have to happen. This is just wishful thinking on my part. But yeah, keep the questions coming in, because it gives me something to talk about in the meantime. Trust me, if I had the luxury, I'd stream this at a much more appropriate time. Okay, checking Twitter again to see if anyone. Okay, let's see. I'll keep checking my YouTube comments and I'll keep checking my Twitter to see if anyone has anything to say. Oh, okay, let's see now. People need to become more focused on our main agenda. SJW are fodder, here to argue with us and distract us. Too many Gamergaters are getting caught up in arguments. Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to read the full comment because it kind of cuts off. The thing is, I'm looking at this through my email, so it doesn't always give me the full comment, unfortunately. So I'll have to check the YouTube video itself. Let's see. He says also feminists are not our enemies, which some people seem to think. Well, yeah, like I've said this several times on Twitter that the thing is, Gamergate is big and diverse, and we have a lot of different people supporting it because gaming itself is diverse. So the point is that we shouldn't get too bogged down by the SJWs or the media critics or whatever. Like we can call out their crap, but we don't have to struggle against them because, for all intents and purposes, we can't beat them, but we can stand in as example against them. We can prove that what they're saying is wrong. We can talk to them civilly. We don't have to engage them. We don't have to harass them, but we can certainly, prove to be better than them. And I think that's very important. So I do agree that we don't have to worry too much about like SJWs or whatever. The debates between pro and anti-Gamergate people might not be the most eloquent, but I think we need more of them. Yeah, I think we do as well. I think that if the debates can be based on the topic, no derailment, no deflections, and people stick to the topics and actually talk about the pros and cons of the movement and the pros and cons of both sides, then I think that can be a good discussion. I feel like too often I've just seen two incredibly biased sides, just say stuff at each other, and then somebody gets mad about something, somebody gets emotional about something, and I feel like that's never been productive. I'm not saying I'm the best debater on earth, but I wish that we certainly had more streams that went really well. So okay, back to Twitter to check if anybody wants to join. It looks like I'm out of luck. Well, there is a way to rectify this, but I don't know. I feel like I was about to. What I could do as well, if people are interested, is if people have any comments or if they know anything about LGBT, they could join the stream as well. The problem with that though is it becomes, well, the very thing that this isn't about, which is talking for people. So I don't want to have a situation where we have people talking for the experiences of others. That's why I aim to get people to specifically give a first-hand account of their experiences. So I don't think I want the situation where we have like a bunch of people, well-intentioned or not, talking for people. So we'll certainly wait. Got a message on Twitter. It says, "I think a good debate can happen, but needs two things: reasonable sides and good moderator." That's very true. Because a one-on-one works fine enough, but that's a 50-50. In a situation with a lot of people, I think the stream can go very well as long as we have a decent moderator. We have someone who can weigh both sides, someone who can stop things when they get out of hand, etc. It seems that a lot of people can't join at the moment. I really do feel like I timed this wrong. I mean, every other time it seemed people could join, but I guess this time it's not as easy, which is a shame. Uh, I think somebody just offered to join. Okay, let's see now. Some guy offered to join, better than me talking forever, so I'll see if I can get him in. Okay, let's see now. You can finally stop hearing my boring voice. Let's see now. Okay, I'm inviting him or her. I don't know. I don't know. I don't assume. I'm inviting them now. Just got a message from Katie Bald. She says that seems like people who are interested are either busy or gone to bed. Yeah, it looks like it. I don't know. You don't always get things going perfect. Disappointments like this. Admittedly, this is always like spur of the moment. It's not like I'm big organized, person or something. I'm just one person. Uh, some guy says he wants to help. I need to ask him to message me on Twitter. I will reiterate this. If you want to join the stream, message me on Twitter and I'll private message you an invite. Okay, now let's see. I'm checking more comments from the video. It's really difficult to speak to people about it when you keep getting Kafka trapped. How do you think one should deal with that issue? See, when you're dealing with the moral thought police, you run into a situation where they'll always set you up in a situation like, oh, are you a supporter of harassment? Are you supporter of this, supporter of that? And of course, people aren't going to say they support harassment. Of course, people wouldn't say it, but at the same time, nobody wants to be on the fence of nobody wants to be on the fence of like I'm a terrible person and I support misogyny, harassment, etc. So I think that's the problem with Kafka trapping, that people can easily bait someone into saying something unfortunate and then using it against them. And anyway, somebody just joined. Hello
Hello?
there. Yes, hello
Can
there.
you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent.
Yes, thanks for joining. My first and perhaps only, if I'm not careful, caller, guest, I guess.
Well, then I'm going to take the opportunity to say hello, Not Your Shield, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for joining me and saving me from my big mess at the moment.
That's fine. I mean, you have 50 viewers, don't you?
Yeah, and I don't know why. Like, what are they? What are they doing listening to me? Yeah. So okay. Thanks for joining. And the question I was going to ask is, what has your experience with Gamergate been, and why do you support #NotYourShield?
Well, my support of Gamergate has basically been, well, from the Gamergate side, has been so inclusive that it really amazes me how people can just shut people down like that. Because the thing is mostly because I like to joke about me being gay and like telling to guys like, "Oh, you're such a cutie." And the thing is that in almost any other community, Gamergate was the one that's like, "Okay, this is a joke. Let's just keep on joking about it." And I don't really get that from anyone else.
I see.
And I joined in Not Your Shield because, well, people started saying that gamers are sexist, white misogynists, which was just not true last time I checked.
Oh yeah, everybody knows about the slew of articles that basically labeled all gamers as the same, and that was a huge problem.
Yeah.
And so, since then, you feel like, I don't know, like, how's your experience been with the pro Gamergate side? Because we have to get both sides of it. Like, have you had any problems from the pro Gamergate side?
Well, the mostly reason is like some people get really angry after being berated by the anti-Gamergate side, and the only like problem I've seen is when people go into slurs, but they've been really understandable and stuff.
Right. And that's good, because I think that's what the majority of people's experience has been, and that's why, obviously, I wanted to have this stream to give people a chance to talk about their experience and what they think about stuff. If you've been watching my videos, I assume you've seen the other streams then, or at least parts of them?
I've seen a little bit of the Gamer Girl stream, Gamergate Girl stream, but it was very, very long, so I
Yeah,
didn't
the
watch
first
all
one
of
was
it.
the first one was 6 hours. I admit that was pretty ridiculous. So yeah, fair enough. That's good. And like, what do you think about where Gamergate's going now? Like, because we just hit week 7. Do you think that this is going to keep going to week 8, week 9? Do you think it's going to not stop altogether?
It's definitely going to keep going. I mean, I still see like people asking what Gamergate is, and these people getting information and then joining our cause. And
Yeah, definitely.
the problem is that we have gone down a little bit lately. But then again, I think we just need kind of a morale boost or something to kickstart us again.
I suppose, but the thing about this movement is it's a leaderless movement, and it's also a movement without organization. It's more just a bunch of people, well, hundreds of people on Twitter, like expressing their concern for the state of gaming journalism ethics and stuff like that. So I feel like
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's noticed that level of disorganization. Like, it's hard not to notice. I do think that I don't know. I do think that things happen as they happen. We don't have to worry too much about it because at the end of the day, we can go back to our normal lives and just get on with it. You know, play games, etc. We don't have to worry too much about the bits and pieces that might be like, oh, we need this to happen, we need that to happen. I think a lot has already happened, and personally, I'm not sure about other people. If this kind of fizzles out, not like goes quiet, but rather if all of the hype kind of dies down, but we still continue to talk about it in general, I think that would be fine because we've made our statements clear. We have support, and we know what we want, so we don't really need to like consistently have something happen every single day. That's at least what I think, anyway.
Yeah, this is true.
Okay. Whoa! I can't reply to a YouTube comment. I do not know what to do. What's going on? No, as I'm looking at the comment and it doesn't let me reply to it, and I don't know why. I find that bizarre. Because I'm trying to tell this person to message me on Twitter, but oh well. Hopefully, if they're listening, they'll know that that's what they can do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna invite someone else to see if they can join as well. But yeah, thanks for joining, because at least now I can say one person joined. At least now at least now the stream wasn't a complete waste. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm just here giving my 2 cents, and well, the Gamergate movement has been such a nice and well great movement. I can't not sit here and be quiet.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who are very enthusiastic about it, and I think that's the great thing. Like, there's a lot of people, despite what the media will tell you, have all been very positive about this, and we've seen a lot more crappy things happen from the other side, not really from the pro Gamergate side at all. Like, I think that it's been very inclusive as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I got 2 people potentially joining, so that'll be cool. And see, I haven't got any questions this time. Normally you get loads of questions. No, because I don't remember which stream it was. I think it was the Women of Gamergate stream. There was like questions every minute. It was really hard to keep up.
Girls are more interesting than gays anyway.
Hey, no, I don't know about that. I'm just saying. I mean, but to be fair, do you also think that part of the reason why people are apprehensive to join? Because the thing is, like, when I tweeted this out, it got a lot of attention, so which led me to believe that this was going to be like, I don't know, I'd be like sort of up to my armpits in invite like requests, but I wasn't. Do you think that people are either too busy? Do you think there's another stream I don't know about? Do you think that they don't want to join because of the topic? Like,
No,
what do you think?
I doubt that it's because of the topic. I just think it's just right now a bad time. I mean, European times, it's past midnight on a Monday.
Yeah, but I mean that's the problem I have because I live in the UK and I can't because I know that right now it's still like afternoon PST, so a lot of people can't join. But the thing is, I can't stream too late either, so I try to find a middle ground. I can understand that it's not easy for everyone because time zones are a problem. That's why I even organize, but that's why I kind of do it spur of the moment. I say 6 p.m. EST, a stream will start going or whatever. Because if I try to organize it, it doesn't always go well, and then we'll have issues where you say people want to join, and then when the time comes, they don't join. That's why I feel like it's almost better to just do it spur of the moment. At least that's what I think. So. Okay, someone else expressed interest. See if we can get them in here.
I'm going to send out another tweet, so we'll try to get in people.
Yeah, and I mean, as I said at the beginning of the stream, I could understand why people don't want to join or if they're apprehensive of joining, and that's fine because this stream was haphazardly put together like all of my other streams, and it's a little bit different from normal, so I can understand if people can't join. Okay, and send out another invite, and we just had someone join. Hello there. Hello?
Uh-oh. Technical difficulties.
It seems like, I mean, to be fair, it's Google Hangouts. Everybody has this problem at first. If you haven't used it before, it's hard to get your head around. And we have someone who's joined before. Hello there.
Hooray, it's me, again.
Yes, hello again. Like, can you introduce yourself to the
Yeah,
stream in case they don't know you?
I'm Bruno Beef Tip on Twitter and Steam. That's and I'm gay, so yeah.
Just the
What
way
else
the
is
way you
there to
said it.
say?
Yeah, I know. It's just the way you kind of said it, like whatever.
Yeah, just daily
it,
life.
it 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 is what it is. So okay, well, admittedly,
Well,
you haven't been. Oh, good.
that's kind of like how the Gamergate has reacted to you being a minority. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's about it.
And that's the point, really. I feel like nobody needs to make a big deal out of it because it isn't a big deal, and it shouldn't be. I mean, and like I said at the beginning of the stream, not sure if you guys heard that I can understand people's apprehension. And to a degree, even I would be apprehensive, but the thing I learned a long time ago is that despite the way you may have been raised, the world isn't like what you see on TV, and the world certainly isn't like how we've been socialized from the 90s. I mean, I don't want to get into like a big sociology talk, but basically, a lot of socialization from the 90s is responsible for the way that the majority of people think nowadays. And that's fine, but I can understand why so many people are shocked that all this, LGBT stuff starts happening in the sort of the 2000s. But I feel like people don't need to really fully come to grips with it to accept that it's there, because part of being in a tolerant society is knowing that these people exist, and just like you, they're people, and that's fine. So that's the way I see it.
Hello, is this working?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Ah, thank.
Yes,
Um,
hi there.
hi. I'm a bit nervous because I don't really usually do like live stream things, so just bear with me because I'm sort of getting used to this whole thing.
Oh, don't worry, we're all
That's okay.
friends here.
I've paid attention to the Girls of Gamergate streams. And I
Okay.
thought they were really good and everything. I've just returned from a 4-day visit to EGX in London.
Okay.
Oh,
Um,
my friends were there.
yeah, huge gaming event, but there wasn't much in the way of journalistics or anything there. It was just games.
Okay.
Oops, sorry.
Hello.
Sorry, I will be really nervous at first, so
No, don't worry about it. It's fine.
You're not the only one.
You still there?
yeah, I'm still there. So Gamergate is something I was very late to.
Okay.
At first, because I regularly go on Face Punch, and there's like a news area, and that's when like the first news story for Zoe Quinn popped up. And back then, I sort of passed it off because I generally see a lot of things like that, and I just thought this is not really something I really that interested in, and I kind of just ignored it. And then it was kind of like 2 weeks ago where it all sort of seemed to kick up with this was when the Indiecade stuff came into the news,
Yeah, I remember that.
and at this point, I had no idea what Gamergate was, so I just spent just a few nights just going on Twitter, Tumblr, and any place I could go to find out information on it, and it was just a huge headache at first. But it was interesting to see what was going on.
Excuse me for asking, but what is Face Punch?
Oh, Face Punch. Do you know Gary's mod?
Yeah.
Face Punch is Gary's community of such.
Oh, okay.
Back when I was studying games development in university, it was kind of just it was introduced to me with one of my friends, and it's a place I like going as a sideboard.
How did everybody get introduced to Gamergate anyway?
Ye old half-chan.
Oh well, should I answer that, or are you just asking everyone else?
If you want to.
Well, I, like a lot of people, found out from the very beginning when, in fact, it was I actually found out about the Zoe post a week before Gamergate happened because Bro Team shared it, and I read it. I read the Zoe post, and nothing of interest really popped out to me. I kind of skimmed through it, read some bits of it, and I was like, okay, wow, this is crazy, whatever, right? I didn't really like Zoe Quinn before because I'd heard her being talked about the whole depression quest thing, and she had that whole victim complex mentality, a lot like Anita Sarkeesian. And when I heard about the Game Jam thing, that was also another thing. So when a week later we found out the details of the people she slept with, I was like, oh wow, this is crazy. And at first I kind of treated it kind of lax, like this is yet another, this is gaming's first big scandal. Kind of shared it out, whatever. But when I really became invested is when Anita Sarkeesian sort of created that threat narrative where, the Twitter threat page she put up, and then, by Kevin Dobson or whatever, and all of a sudden, all those game journalists said gamers are dead. Like, that's what got me. I think that's when I got into it. But I knew about the details from, like, week one, so I guess that's how I came into it.
I actually got into Gamergate when the Not Sure Shield tag popped up, and that's when I just went in and thought, like, hey, I can actually support this. Oh, right, I'm also a minority.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we got someone else who just joined. Hello. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Ah, that's good to hear. I'm Bill from Kentucky.
Hello,
Hello,
Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Hello.
Hey.
Right. So
Hi.
the question is that what has your experience of Gamergate been, and why do you support hashtag Not Your Shield?
Well, I mean, full disclosure, I'm what you would consider the white cis dude that has become the bogeyman of every hardcore liberal. But the problem is, I'm also a poor white kid from Kentucky, from Louisville, aka Detroit Junior.
Okay.
So I constantly get lumped in with the bad guys, when, according to them, because privilege and whatnot, which is all a load of baloney, if you ask me. But nonetheless, I've been playing video games since I was a kid, and when this happened, I've always had a axe to grind with the gaming press as it is, since they don't act like journalists. And when this happened, I figured one of two things would happen. One, the journalist Nathan Grayson probably would be sacked, and nobody would deal with Zoe Quinn, since when you fuck up like that in the real world, you get canned. Pardon my French.
Good.
I mean, it's one of those situations where, frankly, I don't particularly care for those who are actually in the more privileged, refined, pockets of society, down, looking at me saying, no, you're, because you're white and because you play video games and you're heterosexual, you're evil. You hate women. Because I asked a question.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, before anyone gets confused, that is the other side of the issue. Because whereas the whole point of Not Just Shield is for minorities to speak up, the issue is at the same time that white people, straight white guys specifically, are being, they're the straw man in this situation. They're the constant threat that everyone has to be so scared of, and the narrative is spun completely around them, and that's a real shame because I feel like, I mean, strangely enough, that there's been kind of an attack on white guys for the past few years in like social justice warrior circles, and it's quite ridiculous if you ask me.
See, that's what I always find like really interesting is like how they could ever put in the gay community and seeing like straight white guys as a bad thing. Because, well, I, for one, Frank, love straight white guys. They are my favorite kind of guys.
Ooh, baby.
Okay.
Tell me more.
No, it's just like the whole idea of the anywhere in the gay community. It's like berating on somebody just because they're not you. It just doesn't make any sense thinking of the history that we come from.
Right, and it's one of those situations where, it kind of, puzzles me when they just went to say all gamers are horrible because these, people ask questions when a good chunk of us, well, one, we really don't go to the main websites anyway because we work 40 hours a week in a factory. We just want to know what's coming out, how much it costs, and everyone else can get blown out,
True, and admittedly, I think this has also brought up the very valid question of whether or not talking about gender issues within reviews or game previews is relevant. And I think it is to a degree, but I feel like stuff like gender politics, normal politics, and any kind of social ideals, they have to be kept to a minimum, and people need to understand that even if it's your opinion, people need to hold back on that, especially if you're talking about just news or reviews or whatever, because like nobody wants to be reading about news and then suddenly have this person shove their bias in your face. I think that's the one thing that annoys me. That when I see a news story for an upcoming game and I hear the author, the journalist, just whining about stuff, it's like, Jesus Christ, if I wanted to see impressions or opinions, I'd go on YouTube. That's what YouTube is for. Like, you're supposed to give me the news. You're supposed to give me the direct feed to the information. You're not supposed to be bombarding with me, oh, this sucks, this is so stupid, blah, blah, blah. Like, I find that very annoying personally.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those...
Like,
Sorry.
No, you started, so go ahead. I was just making boring jokes.
Well, I mean, that's the problem with Google Hangout. There's no chat to where we can all just say, hey, hold up, time and all that. No actual moderation because Google Hangout seems to be pretty bare bones.
It is, but it works, so whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was, yesterday I was thinking about the whole situation and how the other side of the argument wants to claim that they're all about, trying to get, more women into, either the fiction, the narrative, or the actual behind the scenes, which I'm okay with, but why resort to pandering? Why not just resort to good writing?
No,
I mean,
don't. That's one thing that I don't understand either, is because they say that women aren't inclusive in video games.
Right, and when you have Roberta Williams, who started an entire genre.
I think the issue is because these people, they want fast and radical change. They don't want gradual and natural change. Or they don't want things to be based off of, just artistic merit and diversity. Like, for them, they want something and they want it now. They don't care what the artistic vision is. They don't care what the gamers want. They basically say that this needs to be done now. Like, we can't wait for someone to decide to do it. And I can understand that to a degree, but I still think that that's not fair to force that on people.
Well,
I'd say it's more because they want something to whine about.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I mean, this isn't exactly a new argument. It's a new argument for video games, but this argument's been going around for a while. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to remember the PMRC debacle back in the 80s with the Filthy 15 list of 15 metal artists who are considered to be obscene, or 15 artists in general, when the whole subject was violence, misogyny, the same arguments that we've heard for comics, for video games, and for metal in general. I mean, this is an old argument made by, well, quite frankly, yuppies who are completely and utterly out of touch with the rest of society.
It's not only that.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, it's not only that. It's because that there are women who play video games. I mean, if they just look for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like the old argument that metal was, just a boys' club. When you look at some of the more prolific, artists in metal, a good chunk of them are female. They're just as, there may not be as many Lita Fords as Ozzy Osbournes out there, but they're there, and they kick ass and take names.
It's also that, I mean, we've said this before, that there's a very stupid assumption that we need representation, that we need females to get females, which is retarded, because the funny thing is, all those statistics that they keep bringing up about how 45% of gamers are women, and I don't see, the funny and hilarious thing to me is, you know, that whole thing where it's like there's more adult women playing games than teenage boys. Admittedly, whereas that statistic is blown out of proportion, what those people don't get is that statistic defeats their entire argument. Basically, it's saying that women are already playing games regardless of that social justice crap. Like, they don't need it. Women never needed that social justice crap to get them into games.
No, we don't. All we need is for them to show us show us some gameplay. We'll decide if we want to play it or not.
Yeah, precisely. So that's why I find it funny that
basically.
people are saying that we need more representation and we need more of this, we need more of that for women to play these games. I'm like, well, you realize that they've played them regardless of all that crap. And some of the most interesting, you know, if we're going to talk about characters, representation, some of the best written and interesting female characters have been written way before social justice became a thing within gaming in the first place. So that's why I find it strange that they think that there's like an epidemic of a lack of women and that's what needs to be fixed. I'm like, I don't really think there is.
My most favorite part.
It's kind of funny, seeing as my mom was one of the people who taught me how to play video games, and was in charge of making sure I, get to play what, mom, basically it's one of those arguments of, women were never really new into video games. Bullshit. No.
I grew up playing DOS games with my mom. We'd each map out the old SSI games together and help each other progress using the maps the other made.
Mom was a console fag, so.
Yeah, mine too. My first consoles were a NES and a Genesis because she loved Mario and Sonic.
Okay, and by the way, I have a question
Even then,
for.
we were dorks.
My mom binged on COH when it came out.
My mom hated the video games. Like every time.
My mom bought a Saturn.
Shawnee, go out and play. No,
I want to sit inside and play video games, Mom. Leave me alone.
Dude, I got one for you. I was one night while I was playing City of Heroes with my mom and my dad, way back, like at least 10 or so years ago, when the game was actually huge and popular. I was running a task force with Mom, Dad, and a couple of friends from Dad's work. I came downstairs. All the lights are off. The only light in the entire house is this ominous blue glow coming from a shitload of monitors, in the living kitchen, where everyone just brought their gaming rigs to the table.
Nice. That sounds pretty cool. And I was about to ask this question from Twitter, and this is to all you guys. It says, how does everyone feel about the hate poured out from the anti-Gamergate side more than a month still in? Like, how do you guys feel about the fact that these people are still, being douchebags?
It's hilarious.
I honestly
They told me I don't talk like a lesbian.
They insisted.
You don't talk like the stereotype I want you to be.
It's one of the reasons why I've been so nervous to sort of speak up on the whole matter, because seeing loads of people getting doxxed and things kind of just makes me wonder, am I going to get targeted if I try jumping in?
I see what you mean.
Yeah, that is the main problem.
Well, I understand the intimidation factor is there. And me, I'm personally, trying everything I can to speak up and, be heard and bring attention to the issues, through facts and all of that. And if someone says, I know where you live, I'll just load the shotgun and be like, all right, come get you some, boy.
I've got a crazy neighbor who carries a gun whenever he goes for a walk outside. I'm not afraid of someone on the internet deciding that they want to know where I live.
I have 3 male roommates that are like twice my size, so.
Yeah, wow. I've been robbed at gunpoint a couple of times before. So anybody saying I'm coming at you over the internet, or anyone who says they feel threatened over the internet, I can't help but kind of chuckle because I grew up in the ghetto. I'm sorry.
Right, and go ahead.
It's more of a thing, like, for me, I'm like trying to get into games design, mostly from an artistic side. But like what happened to Polar Roller, I'm worried that someone with a chip on their shoulder might decide to sort of spread lies and things about me, so I just can't approach like any games company or anything without that sort of coming through.
Well, that's where you you lawyer up, because if they're outright, if somebody lies and says, hey, this guy shouldn't be hired because of this, and this, that's outright loss of revenue and livelihood on top of slander and possibly liable, which you probably could walk away with somebody's career utterly destroyed after you properly sue the ever-living crap out of them. I mean, it was so funny because, when Fine Young Capitalists were on a stream a couple of nights ago, I was peeping through Twitter while at work, and I saw Zoe Quinn commented saying, oh yeah, I've got an email from these guys saying that I never doxed them, so they're still lying. To which I'm like, well, Pixar never happened, then I got blocked. So I'm thinking, okay, you got nothing, otherwise you'd probably be talking to a lawyer instead of bitching on Twitter.
That's what I'm saying. This is exactly what I said in the first instance, and I don't want to bring up a completely unrelated issue, but it's why I'm like, if these people had genuine themselves, and now it's kind of like on the sly, like, oh, I have some personal issues to sort out to keep their fans posted, but instead, the first time they get something that even seems relatively threatening, quote unquote, they'll just put it on Twitter. Like, how dishonest is that? Like, how can you respect a person who's basically making an issue all about themselves instead of dealing with the issue like a responsible adult? I find that very...
If they had ever actually gotten threatened before in their lives, they would know by now that you're not supposed to tell anyone about it. You're supposed to report it to police and keep it quiet so that no one can delete any evidence.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Because if these people who are threatening you online are real and you just expose them, they will clean themselves up real quick and disappear. Like, if this is a legitimate threat, like, this person's not going to get caught, like, if they're trying to be smart about it.
Yeah, like the one who threatened Anita, the tweets were gone and the account was suspended almost immediately after she pointed it out.
Yeah, so if this person was real, then obviously they cleaned up.
Yeah, and no one can ever find that proof that they were even real to begin with.
And even ones that were supposedly from our side were from people with listed as GNAA, and that's a trolling group which has been around for years.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, just got a question. Oh, sorry. I keep interrupting you.
No, it's the Google delay, so you can't get to that point. The GNAA basically, we just don't associate with them at all. Every time they posted something, somebody else came in and says, like, we're not with these guys.
Yeah, because they're all goons.
Yeah.
We know that Zoe Quinn is a goon, and that everyone she's working with are goons.
Honestly, I think the followers of Zoe Quinn deepest down knows that a lot of the stuff they say isn't right, but they have buried their heads so deep into this that they just can't pull themselves out anymore.
Yep.
They can't really admit to themselves, like, okay, I was wrong, because they are believing this
she's
too
a woman.
strong.
And she's a woman, so whatever she does, it's like, but she's a woman, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's either that or the standard yuppie yuppie mentality when it comes to those who aren't of the same class, aka shoot them dirty looks when they're working a car auction that you're there shopping for. Bunch of jackasses.
Okay, I got a question from YouTube. Oh, sorry, were you gonna say something or?
No, I got nothing.
All right. Yeah, I've got a question from YouTube. It says, and I admit this is kind of a hard question. It says, do you have a favorite or least favorite LGBT character in games?
Ooh.
Oh, I have definitely a favorite LGBT character.
Okay.
That is fucking Kanji from Persona 4. Because he is legit the only gay character where his sexuality is relevant to the plot.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, like, some people say he's gay, some people say he isn't. It's like, it's left kind of ambiguous. Okay, let's put it this way. He struggles with it as a personality. And they treat it in a very fair way where it's like he's different to other people and people make fun of him because he likes feminine stuff. But he doesn't think there's anything wrong with that, and that's why his friends try to help him come to grips with it. I admit it's one of the most complicated parts of Persona. So
not only that's fair
Not necessarily complicated, just well written.
Kanji is also written for even straight people to relate, because at some point in some time, most people have thought, maybe I like dudes or girls.
Yeah.
So that's how they can find a gay character relatable, and I think it really amazes me how well they implemented him into the story.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I mean
I'm going
that's
with Emil from Nier.
What did you say?
I'm gonna go with Emil from Nier. Well, specifically the Japanese version of Nier, where Nier wasn't a grizzled, middle-aged man. And it actually made more sense for a little skeleton boy to have a crush on him.
I see.
I didn't play Nier. The gameplay was so horrible, I just couldn't get through it.
Well, has anyone else got a character that they want to mention?
Not characters specifically, but I think back to my experiences playing games like The Sims, where you could have a gay character and the game wouldn't fight against you for it. And we're talking way back to the original Sims games here.
Yeah. That was like mid-90s that game was released, right?
Yeah.
Is it weird for me to mention Birdo? I know there's such
It is not at all, because Birdo is a fantastic character.
I know. I love the
like
original.
both.
I love in the original manual how it read. Birdo is basically wants to be a girl but isn't quite sure how it works, and that's why she spits eggs instead of playing.
But that kind of comes to like how Japanese culture portrays homosexuality in a different way than Western culture. I mean, in Japanese culture, being gay is not something like... It's not something big there. Being like experimental with guys at all isn't that big either. It's like something that you kind of do.
Yeah, I think being gay, like the way Japan treats LGBT is interesting because, I mean, a lot of the time, unfortunately, especially through like anime and stuff, it comes off looking like a joke, but it's more like, I don't know, it's like they treat it like, oh, it's different, but that's not like a bad thing, and I feel like the prejudice comes more from the viewer than the actual content itself. I feel like if you have a problem with their like the character, I think that says more about you than the character itself. Because a lot of the time they don't make the character look like a bad thing. They just make them look gay, I guess, is the best way of putting it. And also, I was going to ask you the next question, I think, is perhaps the most interesting one, and most relevant to gaming as a whole. Do you feel like you'd want more gay characters to feel represented, quote-unquote?
So long as I get Dragon's Dogma 2, I don't care.
As long as the writing is solid and doesn't come off as pandering or condescending, I'm good. I mean, that's all I want. If you're gonna, it's sort of like how the faux controversy a few years back about how Alan Scott, one of the original Green Lanterns in comics, was retconned and turned gay. My response was, oh, well, what are they going to do with this? Are they going to show his personal life? Are they going to show him and his partner getting oh, they fridged the partner in the first issue. Wow, thanks for wasting my time with that.
Yeah, funny you mentioned comics, actually. I'm not sure if anyone knows about this, but there was some time ago when Lara Croft was being introduced to comics as a Tomb Raider.
Oh, yeah.
And then they said she was going to be a lesbian. And I was like, okay, why did I need to know that? Like, I was just like, that's
Unless
not bad.
it's not
but
relevant, who cares?
that's what I'm saying. I was like, her sexuality never mattered. I don't see why they're telling me this like this is a big deal.
I'm planning on making a game where it is a big deal, but that's because it's funny.
Okay, like it's a parody.
Well, no, it's just I've been working on a game design document about a lesbian pirate that goes around ravishing winches.
Wow.
It reminds me of Embrick of Wolfheimer's Castle.
I'm sure
Yeah,
that's
oh,
going to
I
be
love
popular
it,
with the guys. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
it's
sure that's
great.
going to be popular with the guys.
I would totally play that. I would totally play that.
I'm working on it slowly. I'm working on a game design document, and then either I'm gonna kickstart it or use a maker. I'm not sure.
Speaking of Kickstarter, man, I've been kind of shaky about that whole thing since it first came out. I kind of prefer the old school DIY method of the old punk groups and metal groups. Just make T-shirts. Seriously, merch your shit. You know, make a bitchin' ass T-shirt, a couple of posters, and sell that shit. I mean, you know,
That could work.
that's the old school DIY mentality right there.
Right, I'm not sure how I'm gonna get the funding done, but first you need to make a game design document.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
been taught,
obviously.
and then figure out funding from there. And I'm getting kind of disillusioned with Kickstarter because I think people are kind of abusing it.
They are definitely
Yeah.
abusing it.
Has there come out like anything good from Kickstarter except Faster Than Light?
Shovel Knight.
Cards
yeah.
Against Humanity. Cards Against Humanity. That's fine.
That was Kickstarter.
Yeah, that was a Kickstarter.
Strike Suit Zero?
I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
played
that was
I've heard of that. I mean, no, yeah, there are definitely good games and good things that have come out of Kickstarter. The problem with Kickstarter is anybody can use it for silly stuff or bad stuff, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
Also,
thinking
problem. Some of
about-
the
Potato salad!
problem, or some of the biggest projects are not doing very well. If you know what I mean.
Right.
3.3.
I kind of want to be a smart ass and start a Kickstarter on a DVD series on how to troll the internet, just for shits and giggles.
You'd probably get it, just like that guy who, what was it, Kickstarter for potato salad?
Really?
He got the money,
Dude.
yeah.
$20,000 to eat a potato
Yeah.
salad.
Yep.
Oh, and to
remember
make
that.
potato salad for some of the backers.
If you've seen the latest
But only the ones who show up.
The latest episode of South Park is a big parody of Kickstarter.
Is it? Interesting.
We have to check that out. All right, well, dinner's ready, guys, so I'm hopping off here. I might be back, might not be, don't know.
Well, thanks for
Well,
contributing. Anyway.
I try. Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
Right,
See ya.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
But I will get this game made in the next couple of years, I hope, because it has to be made.
And I will buy it.
Okay, I think I got someone from YouTube who said he wants to join, so I'll send them an invite in a second, and hopefully he can come in. But
Anyway.
yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
About having more LGBTQ characters in video games, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter that much to me. I mean, if they find a way to integrate them into the story and find a reason why they're gay, sure, why not? If they're solid characters and it's not a necessary padding, like, oh, he's gay, life is so difficult for him or her, then...
Like,
Oh, look, it's a token character!
Yeah, I think that's the fine line, though, isn't it? Like the fine line between a token character and a well-written character that happens to be something. I mean, the only examples I can think of are anime, because admittedly, anime doesn't have too many LGBT characters overall, other than the very specific ones, obviously. But the recent one I can think of is, unless I'm wrong, somebody correct me, is this anime called Akame ga Kill, which is going on right now. It had this character, or has this character, I should say, called Balot. Like, he's this big, like, really buff hench guy, like, who basically is like the mentor to the main character.
Man ever.
Yeah, he's really cool. Like he's a really cool character. They kind of reveal in the first two episodes, he's gay. But then, like, for the rest of it, they don't bring it up, and it's like, they hinted it. They made jokes about how he might have an interest in the main character. Fair enough. But other than that, he's just a really cool and awesome character overall, and he acts like a mentor / big brother to the main character. And I think that was perfect because he was gay, but they didn't make a big deal out of it. Like, they didn't blow it out of proportion. You know what I mean? And I think if games can do something similar, then it'll be fine, where it's like, announce it, but don't make it like, it's like, announce it and then, like, scene's over, never mention it again. You know, I think that's fine.
But that's
But
kind of
then
the
how
whole
will they
idea.
pander?
That's kind of the whole idea, though. Is like, if they're just gonna announce it and then leave it, then what's the point in, like...
Well, yeah, I mean, I
announcing it?
guess, but that's just the thing, though. But it's just like with being straight, or, well, even being a woman, I guess. It's just, it doesn't matter, but it's just added flavor.
Sometimes it's good to just be a thing and not be like a set piece. It's like, alright, he shows some sexual attraction to the main character. It adds a little bit of depth to his character. It adds a little bit more about him. And then you see the rest of them because, you know, we might be gay or LGBT, but that's not the whole of us. And
Yeah.
I think that's different than tokenism.
Yeah, I think that's the issue because it's why I feel like I mean I keep repeating myself, Jesus Christ, but it's why I feel like with the whole idea of female perspectives, I think that adding a quote unquote female perspective to games just creates stereotypes because now I finally get to link another thing to anime, which I've been trying to do for a while. See, one thing that happens, right, with a lot of anime is people, there's different genres and there's different divisions. Like you have like shonen anime, which is directed predominantly at guys, and shoujo anime, which is directed predominantly at girls. Well, obviously anyone can watch either; it doesn't matter. However, both these like big genres have their tropes, and they're very obvious. Like shonen anime is usually populated by action, explosions, girls with big boobs or whatever. And it's usually got harems where a guy meets tons of different girls, and they all have different stereotypical, what's his name? They have all stereotypical personalities, and people find that annoying, and that is overused and cliched because it is. However, shoujo anime is guilty of the exact same thing. Like, the thing is, as a guy, I might watch, let's say, 9 out of 10 shonen anime, and I enjoy them. But with shoujo anime, I can only watch about 3 out of 10, because while I don't mind it, and the story and stuff is fine, I usually get kind of sidewinded by the tropes. Because when you watch shoujo anime, there's usually the trope of, like, the girl is kind of the plain, everyday girl who's not too pretty, and she has a bunch of friends who are all awkward like her, and then she meets that cool, mysterious guy who's usually rich and a bit of a douchebag that has a heart of gold, and then she meets another guy who's fun-loving, and then he starts getting into a fight with the other guy, and a love triangle starts, and you know what I mean? Like, it's got these very obvious, defined tropes, and these very annoying, like, male characters who personally I can't stand. Part of the reason why I don't watch shoujo anime for the most part. But the thing is, I realize that those are stereotypes that people enjoy. The reason why shoujo anime is so big, especially with the ladies, is because that's the stuff they love, and I don't want to take that away from them. I may not enjoy it, but that's fine. Like, that's what they like. However, it is stereotypical. So that's why I feel like if we're talking about female perspective, quote unquote, we will be creating stereotypes. So these people who want to push that, they have to realize that they're not breaking down tropes, they're trading one trope for another.
Yep. You gotta remember though, with shonen and shoujo, they're intended for younger boys and girls, so they're gonna be full of stereotypes. Like a lot of video games are intended for younger audiences too, even if they have M ratings. So of course they're not gonna have great writing, and they're gonna fall on a ton of cliches.
Yeah, I mean, anime, I guess, is directed at kind of like teens to adults, and the occasional ones are directed at kids. But I know what you mean. Like, it has to have these stereotypes because these are, signposts of the genre. And I feel like if this is gonna happen to gaming, I think we can compartmentalize it. I'm not saying we need shonen games and shoujo games, of course not. But I think that if we're gonna have games like that, then we have to understand that stereotypes will happen if we start putting stereotypical perspectives into stuff. And that's okay. If people want games that are feminine-minded or whatever, then they can have that. I just don't think every game in particular necessarily needs to have it. And certain games don't need to have any perspective at all. Like, you have games that are just for whoever enjoys it. Like, puzzle games are predominantly free of gender politics.
See, I disagree a little bit, about that. Well, of course, the main industry of video games is, dominant, projected for young males, but we don't really like those games. But take other games, like the Monster Hunter series.
That was a bit of a generalization, but I see what you mean.
No, take Monster Hunter. There are a lot of women who play Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
What would Monster Hunter be marketed for? Is it marketed for women? No.
It's marketed for people that like that style of gameplay.
I like the waifu dress up.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, I also kind of feel like, and I don't know, I mean, I guess that's why I get what you're saying, and the way I differ is that, like, I don't really feel like a lot of the mainstream games that are marketed at boys, there's never really been a boyish marketing to it, necessarily speaking, unless we're talking about having actual guys playing it or whatever. A lot of the time, stuff like actions, explosions, and stuff like that, that can appeal to anyone, because both men and women go and watch action movies. So just like with those games which have large demographics that get played by men and women, games like, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, men and women both play these games. And to be honest, if we're going to talk about marketing, if you look at the marketing in the past, like, 3 to 4 years, it's become much more inclusive. People don't even realize this, but a lot of the time, it's not just like the 90s where it's a bunch of like teenage boys sitting around hyping about the new Zelda game. A lot of the time, these new games, these AAA games, have like male and female gamers playing the game. Like the recent Destiny trailer, it was, you know, a 3-man squad, 2 were guys, 1 was a girl. I remember back at E3, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, that had like a female voice, and so did The Division. And even if as far back as 2012, when they were marketing Call of Duty Black Ops 2, they had all these different male and female celebrities, you know, promoting the game. So a lot of the marketing is based around a general demographic. It's definitely different to the 90s, where they literally aimed it at boys. Now it's just aimed at everyone.
And there's even, like, one of the more recent Pokemon, new Omega Sapphire or whatever, games where there's this middle-aged man, and he's playing Pokemon, and then he gets there to his kid and his kid's friends, and they discuss Pokemon a little bit, and it's kind of funny.
Nintendo, I think, are just the best for this, I think.
True.
Like, even before the Wii, Nintendo, I've always felt like the most inclusive company. But,
I'm gonna go
without that being a dirty word, I admit. Yeah.
Though I would say that I have one problem with Nintendo. It's because they kind of revolutionized video games before the last generation. It's because they introduced non-gamers to video games with the Wii.
Yeah.
And since they got so much money off that, everybody has been chasing after that market.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
just
that's the only
follow.
real
That's just follow the leader, though. I think follow the leader happens in every industry and everything all the time. I don't really think that's a gaming-specific problem. I think this happens all the time.
Anime, it happens a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if we're talking about like the fact that the Wii started the whole motion controls trend, then yeah, definitely the industry has been chasing that. Mind you, people have been chasing a lot of things in the gaming industry. See, like, and to point this out, and mind you, since I'm a big fan of Call of Duty, people always love to rag on Call of Duty and say how it started a disgusting trend of all these AAA shooters, blah blah blah. You know what else has started trends? Dark Souls, Minecraft, Flappy Bird, Bejeweled, right? All these games that are popular start trends. We get billions of copycats, a lot of which aren't that very good, right? And we have an industry based around follow the leader. Oh, I think someone's mic is having problems. Okay, I think we're better now. But yeah, so, wow, just as I start talking. Okay, I'll turn it down for the moment. But yeah, so we have an industry based on follow the leader, where anything that sells becomes the next big hit. With the Wii, that started the whole motion controls craze. That's why that's been going on. And with games, whenever a game has a good idea, then we start getting copycats. So I think it's not a thing that's restricted to one sector of gaming. I think it happens to all of them.
Have people really copycatted Dark Souls though? I haven't really seen anything.
Like, you know, no, I wouldn't say like it's because it spawned billions of clones or whatever, but I'm saying that like now that's why we have, you know, that's part of what inspired Dragon's Dogma. That's why we have Deep Down, which is going to be that new Capcom PS4 game. That's why we have Lords of the Fallen, which is going to be PS4, Xbox One. Obviously, Dark Souls 2 came out, and then we have Bloodborne, which is a spiritual successor. So Dark Souls started its own like culture. I'm not saying it's the same as Call of Duty, where we have like tons of sequels, but mind you, Call of Duty's older. Call of Duty got big around 2007. Dark Souls is a bit more recent. So that's what I'm just saying that like a lot of successful ideas, because you know, for all the clones of FPS, or you know, the same FPSs, there's 10 times more Flappy Bird clones. Like seriously. It's ridiculous. Like, if you go on the App Store, the amount of Flappy Bird clones will blow your mind, or the amount of Bejeweled clones, or Candy Crush, or whatever you want to call it. You know, the industry plays follow the leader, but it's not just gaming. It happens with music. It happens with movies. You know, it happens with a lot of different genres.
Let's think about how Call of Duty Modern Warfare started. Sometime before Modern Warfare, it was mostly all...
Oh, Gwen, do you have something to say? Because you just mentioned it in chat, so do you want to talk about it?
Yeah,
or?
I actually want to mention it. God, I forget. There are so many of these games, but one of the Harvest Moon games allowed you to basically have in Japan.
I remember my friend told me about this.
Yeah, you could have. You could get someone from the other of the same sex, and they'd come live with you, and you'd be able to eventually do all the normal stuff. They didn't call it marriage or anything, but you got them and they were with you, and it might as well have been gay marriage, and you could
They're
do
your
all the other
best
stuff.
friend.
But you could still, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
get a kid and do
there
all
were
the
air
other
quotes
stuff.
around that, yeah.
They tiptoed, but the slight was when they brought it to America, they took out all the code. They didn't just disable it, because we could have re-enabled it if we wanted to. They completely took out the code that allowed that for the American audience, saying Americans can't handle it. That's what the Japanese people said. So the only way to get the full functionality
in a
is
twisted kind of way. In
Yeah.
a twisted kind of way, I can see why they think that. Because unfortunately, the West can't handle anything. They're way too British. Unfortunately. I mean, just think about it. Even when it's positive, there's a controversy about everything. Like, let's just get that out of the way. Like, there's a
But
controversy
you know what?
about absolutely everything.
But the SJWs aren't complaining about something productive. Like, they could be complaining about that. That's a great thing to complain about. It's actually a slight.
You forgot they don't play video games.
They
They also don't care about Japan.
I know, I hate them. I just always have to point out that, here's an actual controversy. Here's something that matters.
In fact, it's funny you mention that. I'm reminded of, this is another topic if you guys are interested. I'm reminded of the Tomodachi Life controversy that happened a few months ago, I think. That one was funny because it was like, if I recall correctly, the game isn't like The Sims. It's just a game where it takes all of your Nintendo friends and makes them do funny stuff like you're watching a Japanese TV show. And what ended up happening was, there was a bug in the game which allowed 2 male characters to get married. And they're like, oops, that wasn't supposed to be there, so they took it out. And then people got pissed off and they say, oh, why'd you take it out? And they said, oh, no, this game isn't meant to make a statement. We're just trying to have fun, so that's why we didn't put it in there. And that actually enraged people more because it sounds like they're saying we don't want gay people in our game because we don't think it's worth it or whatever. And that was a huge thing. But the thing people didn't realize is that this game isn't like The Sims where you choose the actions of your characters. This is actually just a game where random stuff happens beyond your control. Obviously, they had to give the appropriate PR response and say, for future games, we'll implement this to be better, more inclusive. But to me, I just felt like this is a classic case of people not having the full story and flying off the handle, though I can see why they were mad about it, because, ironically, just like the Assassin's Creed Unity thing, it sounded like they're trying to be non-inclusive, but, that's just the problem.
Clickbait never gives you all the information, and most people aren't like, I assume most of us actually do our research, but us here and on Gamergate, but on average, most people just don't do their research. They just look at these websites and say, oh, so that's what's going on, and these SJW clickbait shit that doesn't give you the full story.
Yeah, it's meant to generate outrage, just like with Assassin's Creed Unity. Like, if you wanted to know the full reason, in fact, I talked to people today who still don't know the real reason why female characters aren't in AC Unity. They still think it's because Ubisoft purposely took them out. And that bothers me. I'm like, have you even bothered to look up the real reason? Like, I'm not justifying it 100%, but at least know all the facts first, and then we can talk about it. Don't just say, oh, Ubisoft is so stupid. Why do they make stupid excuses? I'm like, well, I do think you need to look at the full picture first, and then we can talk about it. And even I can agree that them taking it out is unfortunate, but them taking it out is more lazy than it is sexist, I feel like. It's because every character is just the main character. And with the whole Tomodachi Life thing, I feel like, I admit, it was a faux pas. Like, them saying we don't want to make a statement with this game, it's a faux pas. It was basically saying that, like, gay people are too touchy of an issue to have them in our game. That's the impression it gave. Even though they were trying to not be controversial, they end up being controversial, which is a shame.
You gotta remember, though,
the reaction kind of proved their point, though.
In what way?
Is that they didn't want to make a statement, but then in that statement, people got very upset.
Yeah, that's why I said it's a faux pas. Like, it's kind of a social situation where by saying something completely innocent, you actually offend people.
Yeah.
You gotta remember, though, Nintendo has done away with the need for games journalists because of Nintendo Direct and the Nintendo Treehouse.
Well, thank you,
So
base Nintendo,
you
for
better
that.
expect games journalists to make big deals out of every single little mistake that Nintendo makes.
Oh,
No matter
right.
how dumb it is.
Didn't
But-
IGN and Kotaku absolutely hate Nintendo for the Nintendo Directs?
I have to put it out here. I've never been to any of these websites except during the gamer when they said gamers were dead. I don't go to the Nintendo ones. I don't go to any of these websites. They don't interest me. I'm interested in very specific kinds of articles that they don't make because supposedly they don't pay, and so I don't watch. I don't read these websites. Just
Well,
putting it out there.
no, that's fine. I mean, a lot of the time I used to dip every so often, but I've stopped altogether because I mean, trust me, because in my sort of part-time job as a games journalist, you have to look at different websites to get ideas for articles. And whenever I see a Polygon article, it's always the same crap every single day, and I just got tired of it, so I just stopped
I just
clicking.
watch Let's Players. If it looks like a game that I might play, I'll get it. Looks like a game I might not play, I won't get it. If it looks like they're kind of bored playing, I probably won't get it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we have to actually, and it's funny that we mentioned controversies, we have to look at it on the other side. You're right. Part of the problem with inserting any kind of LGBT into games lies also with these game journalists, because even if it's positive, the game journalists will blow it out of proportion. If they just put a gay character in, and let's just say they did it right, they just sort of said, whatever, who cares, then these game journalists are going to blow it out of proportion, say stuff like the game is so progressive and amazing and inclusive, because and they're just going to draw attention to an issue that doesn't really need to have it. It's a bit like how Smash announced Lucina, and Robin and Captain Falcon, and there's all these articles about how Nintendo is so progressive for having so many chicks in the game, and I was thinking to myself, fighting games always have women. Why are you acting like this is such a big, amazing step? Like they're making a gender issue out of something that didn't need to be, and I feel like that's what they like to do. They like to spin hype out of nothing, like hysteria and controversies out of nothing.
And that's kind of what gets them their clicks, though. I mean, the people that read these kind of things are looking for ways to get more inclusive into the whole victimhood of it.
If they don't pretend there's an issue, then they can't write articles about it, and then they can't get paid.
I mean, I admit though, like I can see how that's an easy trap to fall into. When I wrote an article, like, because this is based, I think this was during the AC Unity controversy. I wrote an article called, just your typical top 10 female characters in gaming, and I wrote it basically saying that I wanted to, spread some positivity and show that there's always been awesome female characters, right? So I wasn't writing it in a clickbait way. However, I noticed that when I put that on N4G is like a gaming article like aggregation site, like you can submit articles and you get more visibility that way. When I put it on N4G, that was like an instant hit. And it kind of occurred to me that if you touch hot button issues, you're going to get tons of clicks, you're going to get tons of views. And even though that wasn't a clickbait article, it was legitimately an article where I was talking about awesome female characters free from gender politics, all that kind of crap. I saw that happen. I remember recently when I saw that Destiny advert where it had the female voice with the male voices, I was tempted to write an article about how game marketing is becoming more inclusive, but I wasn't sure how to write it without sounding like clickbait, and I ended up deciding not to write it because I didn't want to give the wrong idea. Like, I know people are sick to death of hearing about inclusivity and, representation and all that kind of stuff, and I actually wanted to write something positive, but if I put that into the market of ideas, it'll get drowned out by all the other clickbait, and people will think, oh, look, it's another one of these articles, and I just didn't want that to happen.
Also, not only that, but the kind of like hopping into this into the journalistic idea of video games, like right before Gamergate happened. I mean, I once thought of also becoming a video game journalist, but then I just looked at the corruption in the industry, and I was like, no.
That's fair enough. You saved yourself, dude. I mean, the reason why I still care personally is because I believe that there can be good. I mean, maybe there's no money in good news. Maybe there's no interest in being positive. I can see it all the time. I write 99% positive articles. The only time I write on something negative is if the negative thing actually happened. I don't spin anything. I write it as it is. I've noticed that the few times I've written about something controversial, got tons of views. Every time that I don't, it goes unnoticed. Like sometimes I'll think up an idea for an article for about a week, write that article, nothing. Gets no interest, gets nothing whatsoever. In a twisted kind of way, you can see why these journalists became so corrupt, because they realized that there's money in controversy. There is no money in being positive. And that's just a sad state of news, not even game journalism. Journalism. That's the sad state of news in the media.
It's a sad. It's reflects very poorly on humanity.
It does. And that's nobody's fault. I feel like I can see why they fall into these traps, and why, to an extent, they think that they're right in doing this, because they know that their job, their money, depends on weaving narratives and making controversies.
However, there are starting to be tools and communities that are building up through all of this and are been getting made that might allow for more positive stuff and less negative. But we'll see if any of it bears fruit.
Sure, you're right about that. Like a lot of YouTube personalities, they definitely can be positive, and they definitely can show just gameplay and stuff. You know, one thing I've noticed. I'm not sure if this isn't that scientific, so don't quote me on this. But I heard somewhere that people are more interested in something the more passionate you are about it. Either you're passionately in support of it or passionately against it. Like people almost hate objectivity, because to them it's boring. They want to hear people's opinions. They want to know what they think. They want to see if they really support something, so that way they can either agree with them or disagree. I found that, like, sometimes as a neutral person, people find the stuff I say and do a bit boring because I'm too objective for both sides. They think I remember once I spoke on my YouTube about a topic that was kind of personal to me, and someone said they found this more interesting than my other videos. And I'm like, oh, why? They said, oh, because it's something more, deep and personal. The rest of your videos are kind of general. And I'm like, really? I guess I can see that. People don't want to have that excitement. They want to see people argue. They don't want to see people just kind of sit around and agree and nod their heads and say, yeah, this is good. And I don't know why. That bothers me, that people can't be content with good things. They want bad things, I guess. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm just naive, I guess. Maybe I need to understand journalism better.
Well, the thing is with the journalism, what it's supposed to do is, like, in game reviews, it's supposed to tell us, is this game purchase going to be something for you? And I don't think that there are any. There are very few video game journalist websites that do something like that.
I mean, other than, like, I think the only ones that can get away with doing it are, essentially the big three, IGN, GameSpot, Game Trailers, because they are big enough that they don't have to inject any bias, and they'll get the views anyway because they're IGN. They can literally tell you this DLC is coming out next week. Boom, billions of views because they're IGN. Like, they don't have to be biased. They know they've got the audience. But the thing is, when you're getting up there, I can see why you need that controversy. You need that excitement to get the views. Because without it, like, you're no IGN, you're no GameSpot. You don't have the numbers. I mean, think about it. It's the same way with, like, YouTube people. Like, that's why so many YouTube people try to be so kind of crazy and out there. Because if you have the most popular YouTubers who established themselves after years of hard work, it's hard to start getting the numbers and the money if you're just, some Joe Schmo, some regular guy. You have to do something extravagant to get noticed, so I can understand why people would do that. Although I don't necessarily approve of it, but,
Well, that's my career in video game playing gone, then.
Yeah. Chip Cheesem, one of the best LPers I know, still has barely a few thousand YouTube subscribers.
That's a shame.
Yep.
The good thing is, he doesn't do it for money. He does it because he likes playing games.
I just watch Street Fighter players on YouTube do their thing. They're funny, so that's why I watch them.
I mean, it's hard to
do my
own.
own thing. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I've started doing my own thing on YouTube. That's a bit different with a little bit of Let's Playing. But, it'd be nice if I could make a little money, but I don't expect it to happen. I'm on disability, so even just like $1 extra a month would save my life.
Well, I mean,
I've
it's
got
like,
I don't
AdSense, and all
expect
I
it to
do are little gag videos.
it's difficult though, especially with YouTube, because there's so many content creators and there's so much stuff that it's hard to filter out all the different things, and it's hard to find
Yeah.
the unique talent because it's easy to see the big names because they're everywhere. You see their videos everywhere, but every so often you might run into someone who you find funny. But even I admit I find it hard finding new YouTubers. In fact, I can tell you right now, every YouTuber I've subscribed to, probably in the past 6 months, has been a popular one. I can't think of a single YouTuber who's small that I really liked, because you have to go out of your way to find these people. You know,
I've
it's
been
only every
finding
so
them all
often.
through Gamergate.
I mean, that's good. That's definitely a good thing. Because I think that it's nice that there are people are, they just have dedicated fan bases. They're not necessarily huge, and obviously there's like the lesser YouTubers, like the people who aren't making like the millions of views, but they're getting decent views just for having nice content. Like off the top of my head, I'd say LagX Peanut Poner is a bit like that. Like that guy and his friends, they don't get like hundreds of thousands. They might get like couple 20,000, 30,000 per video, but they're really fun and they're really interesting, but they're not as well known as someone like, I don't know, trying to think of it, like KSI or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Bear
people don't know them as
Taffy,
much.
Kirk.
And I think that's just something else, though. I feel like in regards to YouTube, it's hard to get around. So with game journalism, I do think that it's easy to get caught in that trap. It's easy to get caught in that trap of thinking the only way. And personally, for me, as someone who wants to get into game journalism properly, I think, is that what I have to do to get ahead? Sleep with people, kiss people's butts, and frickin' write clickbait? Is this the industry I'm getting into? And also, feel free to chime in. I mean, I talk too much, so y'all need to stop me.
No, it looks like their mics are muted.
Yeah, I've noticed. I'm sure they're listening though, unless they're not. In which case, also I invited someone from Twitter, so they
I
should be joining
just
soon.
mute when I'm not actively saying anything.
Yeah, but all three of you muted at once.
The only thing right now, I'm just tired and working on my Twitch and my YouTube, and I'm not sure what else to say on the issue of being LGBT in gaming. I mean, I can talk about stuff I've seen happen to LGBT people on the Gamergate tags. I can talk about the fact that if people want more LGBT representation, just make a good game with an LGBT character. I mean, it's that simple.
Okay, well,
Like,
I mean,
good
you could talk about that, like, what you've seen happen to LGBT people. Because, I mean, admittedly, I'm not sure if they've gotten the same treatment of, like, you're a sock puppet or whatever, but, like, you could explain if you've seen stuff or experienced stuff yourself.
When I've been told I don't talk like a lesbian when showing a video I had up for a little while of myself, and I've been told.
I think, do you have your phone on? I think that might be what's causing that problem. Or I don't know, that feedback is strange. Sorry, Gwen, you were saying?
So, and it's like, first, gotta prove I'm female. Then I prove a female, then I'm told, well, you don't talk like a lesbian. Lesbians I know don't talk like that. It's like, how do you talk like a lesbian? And then I've seen other people being called, just generally just fake. You're not really LGBT. You're just a straight person pretending to be LGBT. And I've seen, like, I saw someone say, hey, here's me, here's my lover, and they're like, no, that's just a roommate. You're just making it up. That's just a friend.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, and it's perhaps part of the reason why this stream was so hard to get off the ground. I will be the first to admit that out of all of the demographics within not just gaming, but everything, LGBT does come out as the minority, like the definitive minority, and that's understandable because that's just how it is in general, and that I can see why people are even more hesitant to believe that Because, I mean, let's put it this way, like, stuff like you're a guy or a girl or you're black or white, that stuff is obvious from the beginning, but sexuality is a whole new ballgame where that's not something you can actively prove, especially not on Twitter. That's the problem. That's why I feel like it's even harder to prove it. So it's bad that people are saying stuff like
Hello.
you're not real or whatever, but I definitely see how people get away with that. And yeah, hello.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just saying.
No, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, thanks for joining.
No problem.
Right, so I was going to ask the question that I asked to all the new guests, is that what has your experience of Gamergate been, and why do you support hashtag Not Your Shield?
With my experience with Gamergate, I've been following this ever since it popped up on 4chan. I frequently browse there, and in my experience, like from I guess the anti-Gamergate side, I've only seen insults thrown at us. I've seen on our side we try to be civil, and we try to talk to these people, and they just shit all over us, and I'm tired of it. And with Not Your Shield, how do I explain this? Like, I never really considered myself like a minority person. I just considered myself, just a regular person, just not a race and whatever. But then these people started saying like, oh, you're racist against, whatever. And so I'm like, well, I can. Damn, I'm so terrible at talking. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Like I can come out and say, hey, you're representing me, and that's not okay, because nobody deserves to be called a racist, especially if it's unwarranted. So yeah, that's just my experience.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I think that what has been eye-opening to me the most about Gamergate as a whole, and Not Your Shield by proxy, is that it's really shown to the world, practically, just how vile and horrible these people are. Like, I mean, I've known about SJWs for a long time. Mainly look at, like, the best of Tumblr social justice. Some of the stuff you read will blow your mind, because it's absolutely absurd. And the stuff that we've dealt with, like sites like Polygon, Kotaku, and the gender ideologues and gender politics, you see this happen for years, and this is the first time that it's been blown wide open and everyone can see it for what it is. And to me, what's not that shocking is like the stuff they say isn't too shocking because it happens all the time. What's shocking to me is after we find out that these people have been saying this stuff, and then we question them about it, the stuff they reply to us, that's what's shocking to me. Like, whenever someone says something like, oh, there's no girls who support Gamergate, and then the girls say, yes, we do, then their response is, shut up, you're not real. That's what's shocking to me. It's like, I thought these people were bad, but wow, this is insane. These people are legitimately horrible people. That's what's been most eye-opening to me. The most. It
Back whenever
that
they were still trying to argue with us on Twitter, one of them insisted that I was still capable of being a misogynist and sexist against women.
Oh,
Even though that's,
internalized misogyny stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty hilarious.
It's kind of, difficult to be sexist when I'm gay, so.
The only one I ever had was somebody telling me that I was brainwashed by V.
Oh, the whole weaponized minority.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the most batter I've gotten are people telling me to fuck off.
were your feelings hurt? Do you need a Patreon account?
We should just start one big fund for all of us. We're
That
so
sounds
wounded
awesome.
by all of this.
I mean, I'm not trying to delegitimize actual harassment, and quite frankly, I think I have thicker skin than most, because, I mean, some of the experiences that I've had in my life, I admit, not everyone should have to go through it. In fact, no one should have to go through it. But at the same time, I feel like stuff like that has given me a strength of character that really matters, especially on the internet. Like, you have to stay on your toes. You have to understand that a lot of the time, people on the internet, they're just someone random who just met you for the first time. They don't know anything about you. They don't know about your trigger warnings. They don't know about your life experiences. If they say something to you, you shouldn't be so shocked like, oh, this person is completely shattering my worldview. Well, they don't even know what your worldview is. So the way people...
And most of all, your response to it shouldn't be, oh, someone insulted me or said something bad that made me feel bad. I'm gonna put up my PayPal and try to get money from it.
Yeah, it's really messed up because it's almost, I mean, if we're going to talk about influencing people, it's almost an incentive to anyone that the answer to your problems is to act like a victim and get money for it, and that's
I've
a
been
horrible
tempted.
lesson.
I've been tempted because I have all these things I wish I could make and then offer for free, but I won't go. I won't stoop to that. It's tempting, but I won't stoop to that.
I mean, it certainly is, because, as I said, if it's that easy to just get money and tons of support, I mean, and to be fair, it's kind of, it's almost like a human, like, emotion where you want to act all, like, pityful, so people will take pity on you. And in so many points of my life, I've been tempted to do that, to fake or at least exaggerate my suffering so people feel bad for me. The amount of pity you get from people and concern, especially if you're like a minority or a woman, is pretty big.
Can I
And
interject here?
oh, yes, go ahead.
Just what you were talking about was that, like, it's funny how they all call us, racists and whatever, but yet, and they make that whole, sweeping generalization, and they paint us all like just because of a few harassers, they'll paint us all as, misogynist and whatever.
Exactly.
But yet, we have examples of people, especially on their side, who are like legitimate Nazis and bigoted people, and they defend them to the death, basically.
Oh, you mean the lack of self-policing on the anti-Gamergate side? Dude, tell me about it. Like, the amount of crap that these people are getting away with is shocking. They keep saying, we need to self-police. We need to... This is what they do all the time. I hate to say it, but, like, SJW mentality is one that basically, it can dish it out, but it can't take it. They tell you so much about how you need to self-police, you need to deal with the
And
harassers on
you
your
do.
side. They don't
But
do any self-policing. They don't deal with
No.
any of their radical voices.
You know what they say when you call them on it? They say, "Oh, those are just trolls. Ignore them."
Yeah, they say, oh,
Or
but
they blame it on something else.
yeah, like they're complacent. They say, oh, they don't represent me. I'm like, well, we aren't represented by the extreme voices on our side, so why are you labeling us for what they do? That's ridiculous.
You know what's funny? That's an extremely sort of racist mindset in itself, because you can just say that for any group in particular. Like, remember Internet Aristocrat, or was it Sargon of
Sargon of Akkad.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, or no, it was when they were talking to Cuz, I think, and the guy was like, oh, well, we could just say because ISIS, does these bad things, all Muslims are bad. Which
Yeah,
is
that
exactly
was full
what the kind of
retard.
mentality, which is exactly the kind of mentality is what they're breeding.
And
So
I mean,
did you see Ian Miles Ching Chong mention
Yeah,
earlier
that's
on
the guy
Twitter
That's
that
I was
it
talking
was
about the Nazi thing.
yeah.
God, that guy is such an asshole.
wait, who are you
You know,
talking about?
Ian
Oh, you
Miles
don't-
Chung, he earlier tweeted that all of those neo-Nazi things that he said before on IRC, it was just the toxic gaming community getting to him.
Oh,
Oh wow.
bite me, please, bite me,
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah, it was
I play
great.
GTA. I must murder people now.
And I wouldn't be surprised if people believed him. Said, oh,
And hey,
look
don't
what the
forget about the
toxic community
GTA
has done.
violence thing. James McIntosh or Jonathan McIntosh, whatever, the guy who basically writes everything Anita says,
Yeah.
he believes that. He honestly believes that.
I mean, the thing is, it's moral absolutism. This is why these people say that, oh, if one person does something wrong, everyone does something wrong. It's the same reason why they think that if one woman's offended, every woman's offended. Because they see things in all or nothing. They don't have nuance. There is no shades of gray to them. To them, it's, oh, well, I'm a woman and I'm offended, therefore all women must be offended. Or, I got harassed by a gamer, therefore all gamers must be harassers. That's the problem. They don't think in common sense. They think in absolutes.
Yeah. They're very hypocritical about what they say and do. Like they say, oh, don't harass people, and yet they go and dox people, and they go and call them all these names and stuff like that. With what happened to what's her name? I think her name is pronounced like Jade Fox or something.
Jade Fox, yes.
Yeah, and so that's a clear example of them actively harassing somebody, or
And
like
Jackalope.
oh yeah, and her, and there was this I think it was this what was it, a game dev or just a regular person who they called her daughter and told her that she was a terrorist.
Wow.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, and then when that person went and said to that person, "Why are you saying these terrible things to my child, my daughter?" They're like, "Well, we're just trying to make the ground even."
Okay. An eye for
That's
an eye and the world is blind.
delusional. That is so delusional.
That's insane, is what it is. But that's, I think, to me, that's what pisses me off the most. That these people who take this moral high ground, they ask for self-policing, which we do for the most part, but it's not 100% perfect. We can't thought police. We can't stop people from doing stuff. We can only deal with it after the fact. The fact that these people somehow want us to stamp out the human condition is beyond me. It's like, no, we can't prevent people from being bad. We can just call it out when we see it. That's what we're supposed to do. However, you don't do it either. You don't police the people on your side. Some of the game journalists and game critics and people in the media have said atrocious things. Where's the the reprimanding for that? Like, who's answering for that? Nobody. These people
Yeah.
have gotten away with absolute murder, and
Yeah, like
nobody's doing anything about it.
yeah, like when they when some time ago when I forgot which side it was, but when they put out like a hit piece against Max Temkin and the supposed allegations, where were the people calling him out, Where were the other journalists saying, "Hey man, you can't do that"?
The Max Temkin article pissed me off so much. Especially considering the parallels to what they're doing now.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Oh no, because they said it was like, because I mean, with the whole Zoe Quinn thing, they're all like, "Oh, it's her private life. We shouldn't talk about it. It's not worth talking about." But Max Temkin was being just accused of something, accused of raping a girl, and apparently that was newsworthy. Like, how is any of that okay? Why were they perfectly content
It
with,
was,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
it was more it was the article on Kotaku that talked about it, where they were like, Max made that huge response to the accusation, and it was just, the article was just taking apart what he said, and he was doing his best to sort of give his view of what happened.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, wasn't the article saying even if he isn't guilty, he should just apologize because even being accused for it is something serious? And
yeah, right.
Aha, see, that brings me to another point. Not only does that piss me off in general, this culture of apology, I'm not going to say it's a culture, but I'm just saying, this idea of apologizing for crap you're not responsible for, that infuriates me so much. It's as if for example, some people think that we need to apologize. I remember it's like what Cos was saying on the stream, we need to apologize to the female game devs for the harassment other people have done to them. And I'm like, what?
Can I speak a little bit on apology?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've said the occasional dumb thing, and I've apologized to the person, and they don't accept it. I apologize for my own mistakes to them, because sometimes I make mistakes, and they don't accept apologies. They won't accept apologies anyway. So what's the point?
They only give backhanded apologies too.
That's true. So yeah, even if we do apologize, I'm not going to accept it. But to me, that idea that gamers should apologize for the actions of the few is absurd. Nobody apologizes for the actions that they are not responsible for.
I feel like making an apology right now. As a human, I apologize for the Holocaust because of one human who did it.
You know what I mean? See how ridiculous that sounds? For example, that's like saying me as a black man, I should apologize for the crappy thing black people have done in the hood. No. I'm not going to. That's not my responsibility.
The boys in the hood, they're always hard. They come talking that trash, and they'll pull you hard.
It's just, to me, that's absurd. That's why I think that, look, I can condemn an action. I can distance myself from it. But to it's a Kafka trap. It's like when Anita Sarkeesian was quote unquote threatened, and I was making my issue with how she created a threat narrative out of it, people got pissed off at me saying instead of condemning the harassment, you're criticizing her and saying she might have made it up. I'm like, okay, first of all, I said, because I made a video about it, I said I don't support harassment. I condemn harassment. Do you want me to write a freaking 1,000-word essay about it? What's wrong with me saying it once? Do I need to say it 10 times or something? Do I need to tweet at her?
Tattoo it in your skin. That's what they need. It just needs to be like carved into you.
I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, nobody supports harassment. Nobody supports doxing or abuse. But that doesn't mean that someone is then bulletproof from criticism for the rest of their lives because they've been harassed. I mean, sure, people get harassed. Like, for example, Jack Thompson was harassed, but him being harassed and death threatened, that doesn't mean I'll never criticize the guy. Harassment does not make you bulletproof from criticism. And I think it's absurd that these people think we should apologize for it. It's like with these female game devs. Obviously, they were anonymous, but if I knew who they were, yeah, I feel bad for them. They've been harassed, but I'm not gonna never criticize them.
Oh, can I jump in on that really quick
Of
for
course,
like a point that I was thinking about earlier? So with these game devs who get supposedly harassed, and I'm not saying they don't exist, but like I like how when people are like, okay, show me an example of this person getting harassed, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I don't want to spread it, but yet when we get like them saying, oh, where's your proof, and then we give them proof. They're like, oh, or no, rather, we don't give them proof. They're like, oh, you have no proof.
Yeah, it's like, unless you can show me a screenshot, then it didn't happen.
Like, go through all these things that you possibly couldn't even, go through, and then that's the only definitive proof I'll take.
Thinking about screenshots, it reminds me of how I feel about some stuff they've been saying.
Such as, go ahead.
It's like you need to show your. They're basically implying if you don't show your tits, you're not a woman, and if you don't show yourself having gay sex, you're not LGBT.
Well, yeah, basically, it's like if you don't confirm their bias, then you don't exist in their little narrative, in their little world. Because, as I've said before, these people want to create a situation where the way you are is constantly a factor. They don't want to have a world like in gaming where we're judged on merit, we're judged on our actions, and we're judged on how much fun we have and not what we are. These people want to make what we are a big deal. They want to make the fact that, I'm a black guy a big deal. They want to make the fact that people are women or LGBT a big deal. And I think that's a problem. They're trying to force us into these stereotypical things.
What's funny about stereotypes is that the only people really propagating stereotypes is them, and when we gamers, we don't care about your ideas or where your background or anything like that. Just play games and we're cool with you. If you're a shitty person, just you're an asshole, we're not gonna like you. But if you play games, you're cool with us.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
when you're playing a game, you go into the game lobby, no one asks if you're male, female, disabled, gay, bi, trans. No one asks. They just, what are you playing? Do you want to play? I'm playing this.
Yeah, and obviously, of course, you get the occasional person like Xbox Live or PC, PSN that might be a douchebag to you if you're like a girl or gay or something. Of course, they might make fun of you. But the thing is, these are people who would make fun of you anyway. Like, it's strange because these people assume. I mean, we're talking about like say SJW mentality. They assume that the vitriol is based on misogyny or homophobia. They think that the people who say nasty stuff give straight white males a free pass. No, the people who say nasty stuff say it because they're nasty people. If you are on the internet and these trolls find you, they'll find anything to make fun of you with. It doesn't matter if you're straight, white, black, whatever. They'll make fun of you. It's like straight white males don't get a free pass on the internet. Nobody does.
No, but the point is there's so many multiplayer games out there where there isn't any voice chat. And it's like those don't exist because first-person shooters have voice chat. Well, so what? first-person shooters are kind of different from a lot of the other games. And in freaking LOL, you get made fun of no matter what, but they don't know what your sex, gender, or anything is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like they act like, you know, it's it's dangerous to be a woman on the internet. No, it's dangerous to
All
be an
because
anybody on the
of
internet.
first-person
Exactly,
shooters.
right?
If
You know
it
what I
was
mean?
dangerous to be a woman on the internet, then why do women or female characters in MMOs get so much free stuff?
That's
Exactly, right?
that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah. Yeah, but they won't pay any attention to that.
You know what I mean? Like that narrative needs to change. This idea that it's being a woman that will get you criticized. Admittedly, trolls will criticize the woman part of someone. They might use that as a reason, but that's because they're douchebags to start off with. It's not like it's not like every guy gamer has this innate feeling that, oh, it's a woman, I need to make fun of her. No, if someone's a good person, they'll be a good person. It's as simple as that. You know,
It also comes down to like when people come in and start defining themselves by their gender, race, or sexuality, they'll get a reaction based on that. If you come into an FPS game and say, "By the way, guys, I'm a girl," then of course they're going to come.
Silly boys.
Then of course they're going to react to that.
Yeah, like, I mean, admittedly, it's never happened with a gay person, but I would be a little bit, like, I don't know, taken aback if I'm just playing COD and some guy's like, hey guys, I'm gay, and I'd be like, that's nice, I don't know why you told me. You know, it's like, I don't see why that matters. And that's the same with girls. Like, if a girl tells me, oh, she's a girl, it's like, I could tell by the voice, I don't think you needed to tell me. So I don't know, I feel like that's one of those cliches that I find very confusing, that people would define themselves by what they are, and I still think that anybody on the internet will get criticized for different reasons. And it's funny too, because guys who've played games for years, they've dealt with that crap from people from going online, you know, trash talk, insults, etc. You know, the more girls play games, and girls who play online games, they deal with that stuff too. The fact that these people would write articles and, you know, make such an exaggeration out of women getting harassed online and say it's because they're women, gaming culture is misogynistic. No, gaming culture, like any other culture, can be filled with toxic attitudes, but they're toxic to each other. I mean, you mentioned League of Legends. League of Legends, unfortunately, is one of the most toxic communities because people are just douchebags on there, and they're douchebags to everybody. It's equal, you know, it's literally, it's equality. It's equal douchebaggery to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a guy, girl, or whatever. People will just be toxic to you, even if they don't know what you are. That's the honest truth. So I think that people need to create a situation where we can talk about toxicity online, but talk about it in a mature sense of, you know, just like with anything else, if you go online, people can have bad attitudes to you. Instead of saying, oh, if you're a woman, don't go online because everyone's going to hate you. I think that's sending the wrong message to women. It's basically saying that don't play games because everyone hates you, and that's terrible. That's a terrible thing to say.
Yeah, about inclusivity, like what they've been saying about, you know, it's not, games are not inclusive to women. That's like, how can it, you know, not be inclusive to women? Like, it's like, nobody can come into your house and then just slap the game out of your hand and say, no, you're a woman, you can't play that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're basically saying that, like, oh, if a bunch of internet people tell a girl she can't play games, she'll, like, cry and, like, break her console and, like, never play games again or something. It's like, oh, really? Is that what you... Because that's what bothers me about these articles is, like, do you really think so little of women that you think a bunch of nasty comments are going to put them off forever? Because that says more about you. That sounds like you're the sexist one. Because that's why I hate about these articles, man. Like, they basically paint women out like children. Like, they can't handle criticism. Or they can't handle digital boobs. It's like they see digital boobs and they'll get like triggered or something. So come on.
I'd like to bring this up to an article that I read like way before Gamergate started about how this girl started writing about how the Smash Brothers community is sexist.
Oh god, don't remind me. Don't remind me.
The thing is that what came out of that was this other girl that is, I don't remember her name either, but she was a pretty well-known Smash player, and she went, the Smash community is not sexist. They respect how you play. If you play poorly, you'll get called out on it. It has nothing to do with your gender.
I think I know what Smash player you're talking about, but I can't remember exactly his name. But I know who you're talking about though.
Turn that down.
Can
But
you
yeah,
hear me?
you're right. I do remember. Oh yes, hi. We can hear you. Sorry, there was a bit of feedback
Hello.
at first.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
we
we
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Hi. Hi. Whoa, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we
can.
can hear you. Can you
Alright, I'm
hear
having
us?
some audio issues on my end.
Oh, don't worry about it. You can sort it out.
Can you hear me now?
Alright.
Good.
Alright, I can
Ground
hear you guys.
control to Major Tom.
Classic song. Okay, well, in the meantime, but yeah, you're right. I do remember that whole Smash thing, and I think that really irritated me because I'm like, oh, look, it's another. Oh, this doesn't send the wrong message to women at all. Great.
That's kind of also one thing that I want to talk about is like I play fighting games.
So do I.
Yeah, and the thing is that I joined the Swedish fighting game community, and these guys kind of found out that I'm gay because, well, I make it pretty damn obvious on my Facebook.
It's not
And they
easy
said,
to hide it in the first place. I mean, it doesn't matter.
yeah, they said nothing. They didn't treat me completely different. The only way that they wanted to treat me is based on my skill. And these people are telling us that gamers are not inclusive is a lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, admittedly, the FGC gets a bad rep about this. I talked about this before because there was that whole cross assault incident. But that aside,
Yeah.
I mean, people
But
base
that-
it a lot of like on the reactions, certain streamers, not streamers, like stream commentators might have to a girl on stream, or the occasional thing said by someone in stream chat. But other than that, the FGC is pretty okay with LGBT. There's quite a few
Hello,
trans people.
Ricky Ortiz.
Ricky Ortiz, yeah, exactly. The LGBT in FGC is a very obvious thing. People are okay with like LGBT sorry, I was going to say LGBT with Ricky Ortiz. And who's the other one? Is it KO Police? Unless I'm wrong, I'm not even sure.
I love KO Police.
I swear KO Police I think KO Police is trans, and and then obviously there's the girls that everybody knows like Persia and Cherry Genix, etc. And I don't know it about like gay people or whatever, but the FGC is pretty okay with these people overall. In fact, I'd go as far to say that when there's a girl on stream, the reaction is predominantly positive.
Let me
definitely.
interject. Let me interject in there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. I would like they say that male gamers don't want more women in games. I would say I would want way more girls in games because honestly, it's a sausage fest, and I would prefer to be talking to some QT 4T girls instead of hairy 31-year-olds.
But isn't that the point though? That for the longest time, guys have always wanted to play games with girls. They've always wanted girl gamers. So the fact that this narrative began that guys don't want girls to play games, that actually shocked me. I'm like, wait, isn't it the other way around? Isn't it that guys
Yeah, I know,
want
right?
girl gamers? And this is what happened with the FGC as well. The FGC, literally, everybody goes nuts whenever there's a girl playing a fighting game. They're like, oh my god, it's a girl. Like, literally, it's such a big thing to them. And to say that they actually don't want girls, that it's woman hating, I find that bizarre. And this is why it bothers me that the media gets away with painting this picture, because people think, oh, who cares? It's just a bunch of articles. I'm like, you don't get what this does to the mass media. People in looking on the outside, they don't know the details. They're not in the gaming community. So if they see the news reporting it this way, they're going to take it at face value. That's the issue. And what does that say to a woman who wants to get into the gaming community but doesn't know much about it? If all she reads the Kotaku article saying go online, get harassed, what does that say? What does that say to her?
It's actually keeping women out, which is paradoxical. By spreading this narrative that we don't want you playing with us, it's going to be like, oh, well, I don't want to go there if they're just going to hate me. And then that just makes it less and less diverse, which is not what we want. We want a bunch of people to play games. I know it sucks to play games by yourself and not have other people playing with you.
It's the same, I guess, in the development side of things. There's this whole perception that games dev is hostile and everything, but really they're desperate for people.
Yeah. John Carmack put that the best, where he basically said it's not that we don't want women, it's just that we're having women are just not applying. You know,
Based fucking John Carmack.
I know, right? The
Yeah,
guy who
it's
made the
true.
original FPS.
Yeah, and I don't remember. I mean, I have that image somewhere. Like, there's a lot of women who've been in the gaming industry have had, they've hit really high positions, like Bonnie Ross, the head of 343 Industries, and they're not going to tell you about like their long history of harassment and misogyny. They're going to say, "Oh no, it's been pretty fine for me." You know what I mean? Like they don't buy into that kind of stuff, and obviously they don't speak out about it all the time. But the narrative is being spun out of thin air. The actual reality is women get about the same much crap as men, if not less in some cases.
Yeah, because it's practically, taboo to even say anything mean to a girl because, people will be like, "Oh, why are you doing that?" The white knights will come out in full force.
Oh, here in Sweden, you get labeled as it gets labeled as hate speech nowadays.
Wow.
I need to move out of this fucking country. It's so
Speaking
fucking fast.
of hate speech, I saw this tweet earlier where somebody was like, SJWs now consider Google to be misogynistic or something like that, and I was like, people telling me to Google it is triggering me with their hate search.
Wow, that's too much. And also, Katie says she's trying to talk. Can you speak now?
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. So I'm not very eloquent or anything, and I'm really, really awkward. So please excuse me if I stutter
That's
or.
okay.
Don't worry, I'm anxious and I have a problem speaking as well.
We're gamers. We're all a little bit awkward. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's why we're here.
I'm not.
Pretty
What
much.
you're talking about. Just kidding. Well, I
We all
mean,
come out of our little holes.
I'm awkward in some ways, I suppose, but I know what you're saying. So anyway, go ahead, Katie. Hello?
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I guess I should ask the question. I'm being a bad host, sorry. Yeah, the question is that what has your experience of Gamergate been, and why do you support hashtag Not Your Shield?
Okay, well, my experience with Gamergate, I found it on Twitter, and I follow some developers from BioWare, and I saw someone tweeting something about Zoe Quinn, and I clicked on it. So, and I read the Zoe post and everything, and at first I kind of believed the whole harassment, Gamergate is bad narrative, and whatever, and then I went to 4chan and I saw everybody talking about it, where on Kotaku and Polygon nobody would talk about it. You would get banned if you even said anything, and then when the Gamergate hashtag started, it's just everybody was just really welcoming and nice and just completely awesome, and everyone on the other side was just really, every time I tried to talk to someone I would just get shut down, and I support the Not Your Shield hashtag because, well, the whole reason that it was created, I don't like being used, people putting LGBT characters in their games or using LGBT as a shield or just to use it as to get the demographic, not to use it as supposed to be used, you know?
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, and as we were talking about it earlier, that it's still a tricky thing, like, because we're saying like how something as obvious as the way you look, that's apparent straight away, but stuff like sexuality is such a slippery slope because if it doesn't matter, then why does it need to be mentioned? It's hard. I mean, it's one of those things that, like, just like other pieces, with other parts of art, you have to decide: am I putting this in because I'm pandering? Am I doing it, for its own reasons? Does it need a reason? It's difficult. I mean, it's one of those things I struggle with. In fact, if we're talking about art as a whole, I've always thought I'm not like a proper artist. I've only done stuff back in the day, but I always thought to myself, if I was going to design female characters, how would I design them, and would my design decisions be scrutinized because they think I put stuff in there just to pander? I put stuff in there that didn't need to be there. For example, if I gave the character really big boobs or nice waist or whatever, if I gave them certain clothing, what's the fine line between what's pandering and what is relevant to the story, etc. And I think sexuality is one of those things. Like, if you give your character a certain sexuality, you have to wonder, is there a reason for it? Does it matter to the gameplay or the story? I don't know.
Let me interject right there, in, like talking about characters, because I fancy myself a writer, although I've done nothing notable, so don't even try to look up anything I've done, because it's crap. But when I consider characters, I actually really like the idea of female characters. I like seeing badass females. It's and I like seeing badass and beautiful, but I believe that whenever I try to think about these characters, I always kind of hit a wall, or like, what should I do in terms of like romance? Because if I handle it the wrong way, somebody's gonna be like, oh, you're just doing a male power fantasy or a sex fantasy, and I'm like, I'd rather just not write about it. And then people would be like, oh, she's just a man with boobs because she's not being all romantic and
Yeah, I mean, I struggled
yeah.
with this very problem because on my personal YouTube, I have a podcast every so often where I discuss certain topics in games, and this was one of them. I said that I have this issue because if I was to write for games or design for games, how would I design my female characters? Because let's be honest, the amount of scrutiny people give female characters is infinitely more than male characters, and it shouldn't be. And in my opinion, I think that's sexist. How people always have a problem with the depiction of female characters, even if it's not necessarily harmful, or even if it is offensive to somebody, people have to make an issue out of it. And I think that's not right. That no matter what female character you do, it's always a problem. When any character written is a stereotype. Even if you look as far back as Shakespeare plays, a lot of Shakespeare's characters can be given a trope or a stereotype, because that's what they are. They are tropes and stereotypes written in a narrative for a purpose. And it's the same with characters in real life. I feel like it's almost like people don't like the idea that women are being given tropes and stereotypes, but that's unavoidable. It is. It has to be. Because people can always criticize anything. And you're right. If you write a female character, you have to wonder, how am I going to write her without her ending up being a stereotype, a cliche, a man with boobs, etc.?
The one thing I never got about that whole ideal is the whole male power fantasy thing for these strong, buff men. I mean, don't they understand sexualization? Don't they understand sexualization of men?
They believe it doesn't exist. They think that objectification of men doesn't exist.
They think the patriarchy is real.
I've always heard that whenever we say that, oh, but what about the way guys are stereotypical and objectified? They say men aren't objectified because men are male characters are a power fantasy.
So,
and I'm like, no.
Can't we turn that on them and say it's a woman power fantasy if they're all beautiful and whatever?
No, that's the whole deal too. It's like an insult to the female audience of video games. It's like them telling them like, you can't be attracted to sexualized men.
Or to be more precise, they actually think sexualized men don't exist. And to be fair, the funny thing is, I actually made another video about this where I talked about what is a female power fantasy. Because I went through a long list, because I actually wrote up a list. I'm like, so what would a woman consider a power fantasy? Because if we're going to talk about male power fantasies, even I admit, even though guy characters aren't always power fantasies, I can admit there's certain aspect of male characters that I can see being something guys would want. So I went through a list of, what...
In more ways than one, if you understand what I mean.
Well, fair enough.
I would say that any protagonist is a sort of avatar for the writer.
Of course, and I think that a female power fantasy, I find that strange, because it's like, what is it if people, if we're talking about the media, says that sexualized female characters aren't a female power fantasy, then what is? A plain-looking female character with no boobs, no butt, no defining features whatsoever? Is that a power fantasy? Like, I don't get it.
Now, what I never did understand either is, like, they can see the sexualization of men, then, I mean, I play Bayonetta, and I love that game, and I love the fact... I love the fact that Bayonetta is so sexualized, because it celebrates the female body.
Objectification now.
Yeah, I mean, with Bayonetta is always an example people bring up, because she's like one of like the quintessential badass females, and I think the thing with Bayonetta is that I asked, like, would Bayonetta be a power fantasy? I admit that you might say perhaps the reason why buff guy characters are male power fantasies because guys want to be physically fit and they want to be strong and the protectors, but female power fantasies are different because women can't exactly train to get better curves. That's not exactly something that happens. You either have it or you don't. So I can see how that's different, but that's why, I mean, if we're going to ask in general, like, what do women want to see in characters that they consider strong? Because if the looks are the part that they don't like, which isn't true, of course, women love the looks, to be honest. If the looks aren't what they don't like, then what do they like? And that's why I don't believe for 1 second that it's the look of female characters that's putting female players off, because otherwise female cosplay wouldn't exist, female art wouldn't exist, and to be fair, female characters wouldn't exist.
And it's not only that, because there is a definitive female power fantasy, and that is being sexy and kicking ass.
Well, I'd say that. I'd say that, but I wouldn't say every girl likes that. Some
No,
girls.
of course not. But it's the same thing. But how that it's not true that every guy wants
Yeah,
to
exactly.
be huge.
Yeah, I was about to point that out.
Yes, you're right. Like, it's, some guys like it, some guys don't. Some women like it, some women don't. I think that's the point. I feel like the media gets that wrong, that they think that we need, less of a certain thing so that women play more games, but it's not true since women play these games anyway. And what's going to get more women into games is more games. That's all.
And
like,
it's,
why is that so hard to understand?
it's not like every game is like some kind of male power fantasy. There's a bunch of games out there that
I think there's a lot of games that aren't all male power fantasies actually. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
yeah, but like there's just tons of games that don't even have like a clearly defined male or female protagonists. I can't think of anything right now.
Street Fighter.
Well, I mean,
Right.
competitive games, other than the quote-unquote main character, fighting games are games without main character. No, not fighting games. Competitive games, like multiplayer games, are games without a main character, where anybody can pick any character. Games like that, those don't really have a perspective. Those are games those are games with both sides of the power fantasy thing. So I think, and to me, I feel like a power fantasy has more to do with the character, like, design. Okay, no, not the character design, sorry. It has more to do with what the character can do than their character design. Like, you're more interested in what they are. Like, for example, do they use a sword? Do they use magic? Do they have a gun? etc.
Do they sneak attack people and say nothing personal, kid?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, for me, a power fantasy, quote-unquote, I'm a huge fan of stealth action games, like Splinter Cell, Crisis. Like, I love that stuff, because to me, a power fantasy in that is the ability to be practically invisible, or in the case of Crisis, actually invisible. Sneak up behind them and, just put one in them. Like, to me, that's really just... that I love that feeling. Like, this, you get a rush out of being like this super sleuth, able to like weave your way past enemies and just like trick them and like take them out one by one. Like, that is a power fantasy to me, and it has nothing to do with being male or female. I enjoyed that aspect in Tomb Raider, because in Tomb Raider there's an element of stealth where if enemies haven't seen you, you can pick them off one by one. Like, that's exciting. That's not a gender thing. That's just a character thing.
Yeah, like I like your example of Splinter Cell. Like during, like I played recently. I played Blacklist.
Blacklist, great game.
Yeah, and I liked using the silent takedown method, or silent kill method, and
Yeah.
I would just completely reload the game if I didn't get a perfect silent takedown of every enemy, because it's just such a rush to be like, I'm Batman, and just take somebody down.
No, I know what you mean. Like, that's what I'm saying. So I feel like the idea that the power fantasies that are appealing to people is because of the male characters is absurd, because a guy can enjoy Bayonetta for that power fantasy, of the power fantasy of being completely overpowered and untouchable, and a girl can enjoy the power fantasy of playing, I don't know, Splinter Cell and being next to invisible. That's why I think that it's yet again another case of them being moral absolutists and basically saying, oh, we need to have strong females so women like them. I just think we have to have good game content. And another thing, it's almost like they don't get that part of what's stopping women from playing games isn't because of the games being sexist, the game community. Sometimes women just choose not to because, they're people and they make choices. Surprise.
The thing about harassment is that a lot of it is easily avoidable if you just don't give a reaction. It's sort of like with bullies. They only bully you because they want to see a reaction out of you. If you don't give them that reaction, most of the time they'll go away because, they're not very interested in, messing with somebody who's not going to give them a reaction. And so it's just funny. Like, I was watching this video on this guy. He was obviously baiting this woman into, he was just saying mean things to her, and she was whining and complaining. He was baiting her into a reaction, and when all she could have done was just simply mute him. That would have been the end of it.
Very true. In fact, it's funny you mentioned that. That's something I learned a long time ago. Around 2007, 2008, I had to get out of that playground mentality of like, oh, I'm being bullied, I have to stand up for myself, I have to say something because someone on the internet disagreed with me. I realized that, it's not worth it. If someone's being a douchebag, someone's being a troll, just mute them. Problem solved.
Don't feed the trolls. That's exactly. Like a mantra on the internet. Don't feed the trolls.
Yeah, I think
we should have a 10 Commandments sort of thing with commandment number 1. Don't feed the trolls.
That's what I'm saying. And instead of saying as general advice that, on the internet, learn how to deal with trolls, instead of saying, the gaming community needs to change, it needs to weed out these trolls. I'm like, wait, so what's easier? Telling women that they should mute trolls or getting rid of trolls off the face of the earth? Which one of these is easier?
That's like saying we should root out all murderers on the earth. That's never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
It's because the thing is, I wrote an article on my personal blog called "Understanding Online Safety." I basically wrote a guide, guidelines for people who are kind of new to the internet or new to like social networking on how to deal with people who act untoward or trolls. I said that every website has tools to deal with people who might be harassing you. If you see someone saying something wrong to you, the best thing to do is just to ignore them and leave them alone. If they keep pursuing you and they're giving you genuine problems, then report them to the website using the appropriate tools, block them if necessary, and if it's really serious, like someone's abusing you, then call the local authorities. Every website, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, gives you the tools to deal with this. This is necessary, stuff people have to know. That's why it disgusts me when someone, or at least annoys me, when someone says, wah, 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 I'm being harassed. I'm like, do something about it.
Right? Like, I see an often parodied picture where there's this guy who's like, how is cyberbullying real on the internet? Like, just walk away, just close your eyes, ha ha ha.
Yeah, that's admittedly that's a bit of an insensitive way of putting it, but they're right. Like, if someone's cyberbullying you, the biggest solution is to just click the red X in the corner and walk away. Like,
ignore, hide, report.
If your skin's not thick enough to put up with someone calling you a slur now and again, maybe you shouldn't be on the internet.
Or maybe you should just open up a Patreon account.
I can understand that. The internet's a different beast than real life. I think people still haven't come to grips with the fact that because it's the internet, you don't have to deal with people. In real life, if someone's right in front of you, giving you crap, you can't always physically walk away. But on the internet, you don't have to engage with people. Okay, fair enough. Someone's being uncouth, they're being untoward. That's fine. Sometimes the best thing to do is just walk away because the internet gives you that opportunity. Something you can't always do in real life. You have the tools to deal with that person, and and when people say you have to have thick skin, it doesn't mean never get offended ever. It just means know what to do with your being offended. And sometimes it means avoiding entire places altogether. Like, for example, I know certain YouTube channel comments are a mess. So if I'm going to watch a certain YouTube channel, I don't look at the comments. That's what I'm saying. I just don't look at the comments. Or if I'm going to go on Twitch TV for a certain game, I just close the chat because I know what people are going to say. It takes that kind of thick skin where you have to make those decisions. If you are willing to put yourself into the situation where people are going to piss you off, the only person to blame is yourself. Like, if you're going to read an article, that is going to clearly piss you off, that's your fault, basically. You know what I mean? If you're going to watch a video that's going to piss you off, that's your fault. It's as simple as that.
No, it's triggering you. It's
On the subject of triggers, I really don't like the trigger thing because
I don't think anybody does.
I do have some mental stuff, and I connect it with summer, going outside and mowed grass and all of that. And I can't have a trigger warning for summer. I can't have a trigger warning for the outside. When you have a real trauma, you avoiding it only makes the problem worse. That's the thing about the trigger warnings.
Yeah, I heard it on King of Pole stream today. Is like people that say that are about trigger warnings, like at all. Psychiatrists say like you shouldn't do this. This is not healthy, and they're still like, oh, I don't know, but it kind of feels like we want to. Let's just keep it there. And psychiatrists like, no, you can't. This isn't healthy.
Yeah, trigger warnings aren't a good thing. Like, they're not good because they create a situation where not only are we censoring stuff, but we're creating a situation where people will always be coddled to the point where if they get out in the real world where nobody's going to coddle you and the internet isn't there to save you, then how are they going to cope? How are they going to deal with anything?
Yeah, like I just find it just so hilarious that they treat it as seriously as like actual post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, like it's not that serious.
Twitter.
Oh, right.
It was
Yeah,
in case for my viewers and for the people in the stream who didn't know, like there's this woman named Melody Hensley who said she got PTSD from the harassment on Twitter.
Wow.
Can you
I
believe
think
that?
I think I've seen that picture before. She's like looking like blankly off into the distance or something like that.
I
How
mean,
can you
that's
say something like that with a straight face?
yeah, it's
I
bad
mean-
because it trivializes actual PTSD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about trigger warnings is that it's basically like the human immune system. It's great if you never get any illnesses ever, but your immune system is going to be a lot weaker because of it, so that whenever you do get hit by something, you're going to feel like you're going to die. And if you don't let yourself get acclimated to any sort of insults or criticism, then of course you're going to freak out whenever someone actually says something remotely mean to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't control what people say, but you can control over your reaction. Because everybody has stuff that sets them off, that triggers them, quote unquote. But it matters how we deal with it. And sometimes we may get it wrong, we might make mistakes, but that's a human thing. Sometimes you might run into a situation where your friend says something that offends you, like they say that one word you didn't want to hear, or someone brings up a topic that you have bad memories with, and you feel bad. However, we can deal with that afterwards. To basically prevent people from ever saying it is to thought police. And that's the opposite extreme. We can't do that. But that's what these people seem to want. People, they think that, oh, all they're doing is suggesting ways of improving games and improving the narrative. No, you're suggesting thought policing. That's not okay.
Oh,
Well,
you know what really sets me off? The word problematic. Oh, I've seen that so many times, and every time I see that word or hear that word, it's like my own little trigger.
It sounds so condescending.
Don't forget
know, right?
Toxic.
Oh, yeah.
They must
Don't
really,
say
really love
Toxic.
that Britney Spears song. They must love it.
Oh, man.
When they say, oh, that's problematic. That's problematic. I'm like, that's problematic for who? You?
Exactly.
It doesn't even really make it problematic for them because I mean, Jesus Christ, for all the Gamergate arguments that I've had on Twitter, 90% of them are straight white men.
Oh,
Ain't that the
I wanted
irony?
to bring that up earlier. Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
And
it also,
And they
Oh,
want to
go
go on how like the industry is bad against women, and I'm like, okay, are you a woman? Do you have any idea? And they're like, no, but I have heard. Oh, okay then. So you've heard from one woman, and here we have Not Your Shield with hundreds of women saying that it's not right.
See, the funny
Please
thing
tell me-
is, they are doing what they accuse Not Your Shield of doing. They are using a handful of women who are on their side and pretending that, as a result, they speak for all women.
Yeah, and it's also the whole exaggeration of the harassment. It's like, the harassment's a problem, you guys. I'm like, of course it's a problem.
Yeah,
What
they
else?
accuse Not Your Shield of being a bunch of cis white males who are using a handful of brainwashed minorities and women.
Yeah, it's
When in
like
reality, they're the ones doing that. They are the horde of cis white men who
that's
are
the
using
irony,
a
that
handful of women.
they're using
Bad projection.
yeah, they're using minorities as a shield. They're using women and minorities as a shield, basically saying that, oh well, of course there's problems in game ethics and journalism, but women harassed you guys. That's the real problem here. Like, that's what they're doing. They're trying to deflect and say that, oh, because people harass, that takes precedence over corruption. I'm like,
And they
I
do
think
this
those are
while
equal
harassing
problems.
women.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think these are equal problems, and also I hate that it's a logical fallacy. It's like, it's called relative privation, where it's like, oh, something bad is happening elsewhere, therefore this issue isn't a problem. So, well, of course, and people are dying from cancer. That doesn't mean I can't talk about game ethics. I can talk about both.
It's like, oh, it's like me being, or me saying, oh, people are killed in the streets of, some country in the Middle East, so feminism isn't that much of a problem. The equal rights between men and women isn't a problem because those people are getting killed over there.
I mean, it's just, that's why it annoys me. I think that's why I was so compelled to show, to obviously not only make the Not Your Shield video, but to also do all these streams, because it's like, these people don't get it unless you spell it out for them. If these people need proof that it's not just 4chan sock puppets or whatever the crap, then we have that proof. The burden of proof isn't on our shoulders. We've made the videos, we've made the pictures, right? Where's their proof that there's an epidemic of misogyny? Where's their proof? Because they don't have any.
They don't
They
want
have
to
their own articles.
Oh
They have
boy,
the articles that they wrote.
a bunch of writing on paper, that proves everything.
I know.
Yeah, I was actually. Have any of you guys seen that Thunderfoot video where he was talking about how Anita cites no sources in her videos?
Oh god, don't.
And, yeah.
You bring up Anita, and this is the thing that irks me the most. That Anita Sarkeesian is taken so seriously that people just either, one, say that she's telling the truth, thank you, Joss Whedon, or they say it's just her opinion. First of all, this woman doesn't talk like it's her opinion. She talks like it's fact. Internalized misogyny influencing decisions behind female character depictions. Does that sound like an opinion to you? And secondly, how can anybody take what she says seriously when she's the most intellectually dishonest person? Absolutely no study cited, stealing Let's Plays from people, stealing art, proven that she's not even really a gamer, not that that's not relevant.
Oh man, I
and
love
yet,
that.
And yet people are just like, yeah, but what she says is important. Yeah, I could have told you what she says, but the difference is I'm not an intellectually dishonest person who doesn't even use sources. You know who's a good, female feminist game critic? What's her name? I think Jenny Barrage, I think her name is. Sorry if I got your name wrong. I'm gonna check Twitter real quick. Like, she has a weekly show. Yeah, Jenny Barrage, right? She has a weekly show where she talks about aspects of gaming, like her recent videos, don't worry about gender roles in games, and in one of her previous videos was I'm just scrolling through your video list right now. One of her previous videos talked about morality in games. So, she's a feminist, she's a game critic, but she actually does studies. She puts her sources in her video description. Just like Christina Hoff Sommers. These are honest people doing honest research, right? So the fact that people take Anita Sarkeesian so seriously, this person doesn't list any sources.
Sargon and his assistant put it best. They treat her like a holy cow, basically. It's taboo to even, go against her or say anything against her.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the problem, because I think that, and I mean, it's funny, somebody said this today, were it not for Anita, we couldn't have had people, debunk her and show true investigative journalism and have female critics who are actually, they actually have a point and they're not ridiculous. Because as I said, like, it's how can anybody take someone seriously who's so intellectually dishonest? Because what bothers me isn't just people like her, but like somebody who says stuff like studies show. I wrote an article on this. It's like someone saying studies show that what? I'm like, what study? You didn't list a study. You just said studies. What study? Like, you can't just say that there's scientific research backing your point if you never say what that scientific research is.
The thing is that I can understand why the woman would follow the Anita, because Anita's basically telling these people you are victims. So some people want to relate to that. I don't understand why. What I never understood why she has such a huge, straight, white male following.
True. I mean, I don't know if this is a generalization, but I actually don't think that that many women support Anita Sarkeesian. Like, if I'm honest with you, if I was to ask every like girl gamer I know, I don't think they support Anita. Not all of them anyway.
Well, that's nice to hear, because here in Sweden there's a bunch of girls that support Anita Sarkeesian.
No, I mean, of course there's loads. There's loads, and like I think some of the girls I talk to, they say that they don't like everything she says, but she sort of has a point, and that's fine. That's their opinion. That's okay. And a part of me just feels that sometimes people support Anita just because, you know, she's saying some things they like. And admittedly, it's okay to like someone even if you don't like everything they say, so that's fine. I just feel that this person is such a problem. I don't believe in ad hominem, but when the person is basically they say that an ad hominem is bad because you're attacking a person and not taking account of what they're saying. You're supposed to focus on what they're saying. However, if what they're saying is influenced by who they are, I think who they are matters. And if this person is making up ideologies and saying studies show this and internalized misogyny that, I think that's a problem. I think that's a huge problem.
Especially when she's cited by basically everybody. If you everywhere you go, they'll be like, oh, you have to watch Anita's video. It's basically their gospel.
Yeah, I mean, you had that Andrew Joker on, whose stream was it? Whiskey Grenade stream, talking to Becca and Liz, based Becca and based Liz, like talking to them. And he was all like, oh, well, if I was going to change gaming, I would implement the stuff that Anita Sarkeesian talked about. They asked him for examples, and he didn't say anything. But then he gave that example of, like, how in Sleeping Dogs, there's massage parlors with, like, women showing their boobs or whatever, which they don't. If you play the game, they don't. And I remember Liz saying, what's wrong with massage parlors? And he's like, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like, and she's all like, there's massage parlors in real life, right? And he's like, yeah, and that's fine, and he kept making up lame excuses. And that's what I mean, like, people who follow her videos follow her same faulty logic of absolutely nothing. And and the thing is, it's even worse when she takes some games and completely misrepresents them. I'm not sure if anybody remembers, if you've seen the video, where she took that bit in Hitman like completely out of context, and she completely made up crap where she was all like, in Hitman, the player is invited to kill these female NPCs, and you're meant to derive a sick pleasure from punishing representations of female sexuality.
And then again,
and I was just like, what?
These videos are for people that don't play video games.
I think that's even worse, though, because it's spreading the wrong idea. Because the thing about Hitman, in particular, is, first of all, in Hitman, you're not supposed to kill any innocent civilian, not just women. You're not supposed to kill anybody other than your target. That's the first thing. Second of all, the game doesn't invite you at all. The game penalizes you for it. If you kill innocent civilians, two things will happen. One, you'll get a deduction from your score, and two, if they find the body, they're gonna kill you. Basically, that's the second thing.
Actually, no. She explained this. They said that it trivializes the penalties.
No, it doesn't. In fact, a lot of games like GTA, if you start killing innocent people, the cops will come down on you. That's the thing. Like, so that crap about it trivializes, it makes no sense. And the thing is, what's insulting to me is it's not like Hitman doesn't make it apparent. Because Thunderfoot explained this. They showed this, the uninitiated, that for the majority of people in that part of the game, they don't kill the civilians because you're not supposed to. Why? Because at the beginning of Hitman Absolution, a really long drawn-out tutorial spells it out for you. It says, blah, 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 this is Hitman Absolution. In this game, you kill targets, don't kill civilians because that's wrong. That's what the game tells you. It tells you from the beginning. So that this idea that the game encourages you, that's just dishonest. And then when people called Anita out on that, somebody said, I remember somebody saying this, which just blew my mind. They said, "Oh, maybe Anita misunderstood the game." And I'm like, excuse me?
Oh, that brings up something that she actually said earlier today. She was like, "Isn't it horrible when you have to play 8 hours of a game to get a specific clip, and then it just ends up lost on the cutting room floor?" And I was like, "Oh no, you have to actually play the game to criticize it."
I just
Yeah.
saw that, and let me see what the actual word was. It was playing an unpleasant game.
Oh right.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Bite
that makes it even worse.
bite me, please. Seriously, like that, like, and seriously, like that Hitman thing really blew me away. And the fact that people said that, oh, she just misunderstood it, which is absolute crap. And the thing is, she's sending this message to people that Hitman is a game where you're invited to kill prostitutes and derive a sick pleasure from it. And in the video clip, she was like, she killed the prostitute and dragged the body around. And I'm like, you're sick. Nobody would do that. Only, she did that in the video clip.
It's cherry picking.
This is exactly the same as the old argument from GTA.
Jack Thompson. Yeah, people make a lot of comparisons between Anita and Jack Thompson, and pretty much I'm just gonna start calling her Jack.
Jack too.
But yeah, you're right. Like, this is what happened with Jack Thompson. You're right.
We can call her Jackie Chan.
That is a multi-layered joke. I really like that. I mean, no, but you're precisely right that the idea that the game is either going to influence real behavior or that the game invites you to do it. But no, I mean, she briefly says that the game doesn't have that much of a penalty, and in some cases there isn't. Like, in some cases, besides GTA, you can kill civilians and not necessarily get away with it, but you can find ways around it. That doesn't mean that the game is telling you to do it. That doesn't mean the game is telling you to do it to women. That means that the game gives you the option to kill any NPC at all. Like, and the fact that she says that, oh well, the female sexualized NPCs can be killed, and this is result of the sick pleasure to punish female sexuality, and this promotes the wrong idea about women in real life. I'm like, how can you say that? How can you tell people with a straight face that playing video games will influence negative ideas about women in real life? Like, are we retards?
That's also very interesting that she would say that, because I mean, once again, women and guys who are attracted to guys play video games. I don't want to go out and rape big, burly, muscly men, because I play a lot of games with big, burly, muscly men. That doesn't make any sense. How can you completely disregard the whole idea of a gender when you're saying that this influences gender?
Yeah, like to say that playing a game with, quote-unquote negative representations of women will promote the idea of negative representations of women in real life. I don't think she understands that if you're look, if somebody is, I don't know, if somebody can get influenced by something like a game, they can get influenced by anything, and I think that says more about them as a person than the game itself. If you see a game and you see a sexy woman and think, ew, she's an object, I think that says more about you than the game.
Right. Like, we don't see like a huge surge of people going out capturing birds and then flinging them from slingshots, because that games don't influence people, and that's actually pretty funny, because earlier that guy, what was his name, something Chong or whatever, he was like, oh, I became a Nazi because of gaming culture.
Yeah, I mean, and for people to defend her and say stuff like it's just her opinion or she just misunderstood the game, it's just like that. Don't even. Just don't even. and don't get me wrong. Like, here's the thing. Before that video came out, I played Hitman Absolution because it was free on Xbox 360 Games with Gold. I'm not gonna lie to you. That game has a lot of sexualization, like a stupid amount, like. Admittedly, it's because Hitman is a game where you're involved in, like, very shady circles, very shady people. So you'll see a lot of stuff like a lot of decadence, a lot of bad behavior, people doing horrible things to horrible people, and for example, one of the darker parts of the game, which she completely took out of context, was where the cops are looking for you, and meanwhile you go into this area where they're looking for a dead hooker, right? And you happen to find the dead hooker, right? And you can, throw her down so they can find her, and you use that as a distraction to slip past them. I admit that part was dark, but to me, I just thought this is interesting. Like, it made me feel uncomfortable, but from a game standpoint, I thought that was intriguing. That the cops are looking for a murdered civilian. You happen to find that murdered civilian, and while you're not necessarily a good person, you kind of solve the crime for them, while at the same time saving your own skin. So to me, that seemed more like a very interesting, slightly twisted gameplay mechanic. But then
there's a word for that, but I can't remember what it is. It's like it starts with a P.
P, you say?
I just can't remember right now. But it was on my mind right now, but it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember.
Okay, I mean, so to me, like, I thought that was interesting. And then you might say, oh, it's because you're a guy that you don't understand how that can be offensive to women. And I'll say, yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm not a girl, but should I be offended of that? Like, if I see a dead woman's body being used as a gameplay mechanic, because I see dead men's body used as gameplay mechanics all the time, so, like, let's be honest with ourselves. Men die a lot in games. A lot. Sometimes in stupid and humiliating.
Oh yeah, I love that double standard. Men get ripped apart. They get the most horriblest things done to them in games. But yet there's no hug box for me. There's no support groups for me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was the bit where she showed how in God of War you use like a half-naked woman to complete a puzzle. Isn't God of War the same game where you ripped off a guy's head and used it as like a mechanic? Like, I swear that's the same game where that happened.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about the head.
Like, it's kind of grotesque. I don't remember the god's name, but like when you rip off his head, you use his head for it to shine light. In fact, in God of War 1, you rip off Medusa's head and use it to turn people to stone.
I'd say that's pretty metal.
You know what I mean? So it's like to make an issue out of the fact that it's a woman that it's happening to, and that's why it's wrong. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Women in real life suffer from horrible things, but so do men. Are you trying to imply that we shouldn't show the victimization of women, and if we do, it has to be deeply written and central to the story? That's absurd. Like, that basically means we can't have stock characters and we can't have plot devices because a woman might be offended by it because it happens in real life, which I think is ridiculous. And I think that to then say that, this is why we need to have more strongly written women, or this is why we need LGBT characters to get more women to play the game, I'm like, you're missing the point.
I think actually Anita put it best herself. She herself said, I don't want to play games where I rip off people's heads. Ooh, that's nasty.
Oh, you mean in that video that everyone completely ignores of her?
Yeah, right? If you try to source them, they don't even respond.
Well, the media has a very good habit of ignoring stuff that they don't want to fit their narrative. For example, I'm sure everybody remembers the Dragon's Crown controversy, right?
Yes.
The Dragon's Crown controversy happened. Obviously, it was the back and forth between, I think, Jason Schreier of Kotaku and George Kamitami or something. I can't remember his name. Of Vanillaware.
Based fucking George Kamitami.
Yeah, and he said, Jason Schreier was just ripping apart, saying, "Oh, his art is so disgusting. I wouldn't want my 14-year-old daughter playing this. It looks like it was written by I wouldn't want my teenage daughter playing this. This looks like this was made by a 14-year-old boy." And then George joked, saying, "Well, okay, if the sorceress boobs offend you, would you prefer something like the dwarf?" And he showed him a picture of the dwarves.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And then Jason Schreier basically said, "Oh, he was being homophobic." And he just kept insulting him over and over and over and over. And this is a classic case of people, him saying that, the sorceress is so offensive because this is disgusting. It's made for, a tweeny demographic, and this is the kind of thing that offends women. Blah blah blah. Funny thing, this is one of the few cases it's happened. I'm so glad.
Japan would disagree.
I know, but I love this voice actor. The voice actor of the sorceress, Erin Fitzgerald. I love her. She does a ton of voices. She does like Chie from Persona, for example. Erin Fitzgerald actually wrote on Tumblr about how she found it ridiculous how people were offended. She said it herself that yes, she admits sometimes there are negative depictions of women in games, but those are the games where the female characters are either weak, they're relegated to a support role, for like a male character, or they're not made that interesting. But to her, a female character that's strong, a main character and playable, that is just as strong as the guys, it's not a bad thing. And she's like, so what? She has big, ridiculous boobs. That's not something that offends everybody. And I've always made this point that
not only that, but the Dragon's Crown art design was basically ridiculous proportions
for every character.
Yeah, for every character.
They only emphasize the sorceress because of her boobs, when the freaking the fighter is literally a tank in a man's body, right? The dwarf.
He's got these tiny little legs for his huge body.
Exactly. Like the dwarf looks ridiculous, to say the least. The Amazon's legs would put Chun-Li to shame. You know what I mean?
Love the Amazon's design. I love it so much.
I love it too. That's what I'm saying. Like the fact that they're saying, "Oh my God, it's the boobs. Oh my God, offense." And it's like I've always said, female cosplayers, female writers, female artists, and female voice actors aren't offended by this. So this crap about it's offending women is stupid. And mind you, and fun fact, do you know women were cosplaying the sorceress even before Dragon's Crown came out? Like months before it came out. They just saw the art and cosplayed as it. It's just like with Metal Gear Solid 5, where there's a whole controversy over Quiet's outfit. And guess what? Look how many cosplayers of Quiet there are. The game's not even out yet.
The funny thing about the sorceress thing is that no one remembers the elf.
True. Very true.
I really like the elf.
The elf's cool.
Yeah.
The elf and the wizard, I think, are like the two most normal looking characters.
I forgot about the wizard.
Yeah.
I actually forgot he existed.
Can't have your proper dungeon crawl.
I mean,
I played like 50 hours and I forgot the wizard existed.
Wow. No, but that's what I'm saying. That it's absurd to me that they say that. Oh, that's loud.
Oh my goodness.
Don't worry, dealt with it. But yeah, they say that
we are now entering the zone.
Yeah, I know, right?
About the space lobsters.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, they say that it's offensive to women when it's women who are cosplaying it, doing fan art of it, and enjoying it just like the guys are, but they ignore it. And that's why I feel like Not Your Shield is so important, because it shows, and Gamergate is so important, because it shows that women aren't single-minded, and it's absurd to think that they are. I hate whenever there's a female character and they say, this is so offensive to women. I'm like, no, it's not. It may be offensive to you, and that's fine, but don't say that it's women that are offended by it when it's you that's offended by it.
On a completely unrelated, or not completely unrelated, but isn't Jason the same guy who was saying that the sorceress was a pedophilic fantasy?
Yeah, specifically lolicon fantasy.
Oh, right,
yeah.
right.
Wait,
right,
what?
yeah.
Wait, and how did he come to that conclusion?
I don't know.
Because she's got he believes that it means a young face and a big chest.
Oh, yeah,
which is the exact opposite of what it is.
Yeah, he pulled that out of his butt, because he says that, oh, she doesn't even look like an older woman, she looks like a young girl, so this is pedophilic or whatever. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, that's obviously a very young
But then whenever it was pointed out that he doesn't actually know what the definition of lolicon is, he just said, oh, well, of course I don't. I'm not some nerd who likes, Japanese porn.
Yeah. Hilarious. Of course you'd have that reaction.
It's really interesting how he says that, because big breasts in Japanese media usually symbolize maturity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very true. You're right about that. I mean, it's ridiculous to me, and I hate when people, as I said, they ignore female gamers who like this stuff, who cosplay this stuff, who draw art of this stuff. Like, there are female artists
Made by female artists.
Yeah, they are female artists who draw erotic art, and when people see it,
Sometimes
they
better
criticize it
than
and
men.
say, yeah, they criticize it and say, ew, this is like drawn by like a teenage boy, and it's like, and then they're like, oh, but I'm a woman, and then they still say crap anyway, or they don't believe and they say, oh, you're not a woman or whatever. And it's like, okay, like that's fair.
I don't even
It's
know what
not,
they're
it's just
internalizing.
yeah, I mean, it's just not right to me that we are essentially the media is being sexist to the people it claims to be representing. That every time the narrative is pushed so hard that male power fantasy, teenage boys, that whenever we prove that it isn't, that women are equal to men and women like stuff just like men do, that they like sexualization just like men do, people ignore it. They act like female cosplay isn't a thing. They act like female artists aren't a thing. The female voice actors aren't a thing. I mean, seriously, do you think that the female voice actors of these sexualized characters have been brainwashed by the patriarchy into voice acting these characters? Of course not. Like, that's absurd. Like, why would they be doing it if they didn't like it? That's why I don't understand. Like, do these people really think that these female voice actors hate the characters they're voice acting, that they're being held, like, for ransom by some company or something? Is that what they think?
Yeah, like, then how do you
It's funny
explain,
because
like,
Laura Bailey, who was in Nier as the character Kaine, who wears basically a thong and a little tiny tank top in battle, she really liked that character. She's really excited to play her.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the characters love. I mean, the voice actors love their characters. Like Karen Strassman, she voice acts quite a few like sort of sexy characters. She likes her characters too, and that's why I find it strange that people are ignoring the female side of it. They're saying that like, oh, these characters are created, by and for teenage boys, except when they're not, and they just don't. And in fact, I've even pointed out to people, I'm like, oh, but what about female cosplayers? And they say, just because women like it doesn't mean it's not sexist. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's also the whole idea of that if an animated woman is dressed poorly, then or doesn't have much clothes, then sexualization is a bad thing. But women should be able to dress what they want.
Yeah, no, oh yeah, the whole idea of that, female women dressing like whatever they want in real life is empowerment, but female characters being drawn like that isn't. And I think it's just due to the fact that people think that it's a man drawing a woman, and that's oppression. I think that's what they think.
yeah, like, they
but
say a lot of
even
contradictory
so,
stuff.
it's still like women that are drawn to these kind of characters.
Yeah, they are, but nobody wants to admit that. And I don't know why. I think that it's so strange when all of the evidence is there to the contrary, but people will systematically ignore it. Because, like, as I said, like, that's why to a lot of us gamers, we just find this narrative strange. Where did they come up with this stuff that, guys don't want girls to play games, or that guys hate all, girl gamers, or that girls don't like stuff like that? Like, where did this assumption come from? Other than, say, one or two examples where someone might be offended by something. Because I don't get it personally. Because, I mean, all the girls I've talked to, I'm not saying every girl I've talked to through Gamergate represents all women. Of course they don't. But they prove that there is no general narrative, that not every single thing in a game is going to offend a woman, especially not digital boobs. I mean, can we get rid of that assumption, like, please? Like, it kills me that it's 2014 and people still think that digital boobs offend women. Like, can we just like quit with that?
Oh no, pixel boobs.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna pop off now. It's 3 a.m. and I kind of need sleep.
Yeah, that's fine. To be fair, I think since we're not getting any new people joining, I think I'll be bringing the stream to a close very soon. So I'm just checking around to see if there's any questions people want to ask, or if there's anything that people want to mention. I think I got a comment from, what's his name? Oh yeah, like someone mentioned about how the Saints Row series has specific attacks against men. And it's true, like, there's a lot of I mean, for all the crap Saints Row gets for how it depicts women, it has some very crude, like, things that happen to the guys. Like, there's that entire part.
Wait, Saints Row gets crap for poorly betraying women?
It does, yeah. But
It does.
it
Every
does.
time I play those games, I play as a strong, independent black woman who don't need no man.
I mean, no, I mean,
Don't we
admittedly,
all?
my Saints Row 4 character was a woman. My Saints Row 3 one wasn't. I'm not like it matters, but no, like there was that whole like gameplay segment of Saints Row 3 where you had to go rescue that black guy, I think Zamos or whatever, from the freaking BDSM club where he'd like been turned into a horse, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, really? And you think this game abuses women? Like, come on.
Hey, I played the game as Russian She-Hulk, so
Oh.
Yeah, in Saints Row 2, you have a moment, like a really dark moment, where the character Carlos gets dragged around all across the city by a truck pulling him on a chain, and it's pretty horrible. And your character has to put him out of his misery because if he gets put into a hospital, he's just gonna live out the rest of his life in pain.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that people reacting negatively to the way women are treated says, it shows that they basically have no empathy for the way men are treated. Because I'm not saying that we have to cry every time a character dies in a game, but rather, it's like, you know what it's like? I mean, admittedly, we're talking about when female characters are victimized, even though we ignore when men are victimized. But it's a bit like saying that Tomb Raider is wrong, as in the new Tomb Raider is wrong, because Lara Croft dies in horrible ways. And that's for the sick pleasure of a male audience. When, guess what other games where people die in horrible ways? Gears of War, Dead Space, Resident Evil. People die in completely grotesque and humiliating ways in those games. So if you moan that it's happening to a woman, then I don't know. I mean, you might be sexist, just saying.
Right. Like, also, this is another funny thing that that I do. It's like, and any time I ever get a choice between male or female inside of a game, I for some reason will always play a female first. Like, I don't know why. I always like to go through the female character route first. I'm not sure why that is.
And that's fine, and that's one of those things, because it's always why I explain that the idea of representation is crap to me, because like with fighting games, I've noticed that like a lot of people, I mean, to be fair, we don't in the FGC, nobody cares about the gender of a character. We care about what the character can do, and a lot of guys will play both male and female characters. Yet to presume that we need more women for women, it's basically saying women will only play female characters, and that's stupid. That's a stupid assumption, and it's very patronizing.
Right. Like, I recently was going through a playthrough of Mountain Blade, and I made this female character, and so I sort of crafted like a whole story in my head. Like, she rode around on a horse using a lance to, basically she rode out in front of her men to take on the enemy head on, and she would, the men would support her, but she was the one on the front line. She was the one riding them down by herself. And I find that pretty funny that they say that there are no, strong women characters.
Oh, no, obviously that's just the narrative spun in general, I think. And to be fair, if we're gonna like bring it back to the main topic, if we're talking about the whole LGBT thing and how that can be represented in games, I definitely admit it's difficult to pull off effectively. Because if it's an arbitrary choice, then why does it matter at all? In fact, I think Yahtzee, Zero Punctuation, Yahtzee wrote something very perfect about this, where he was talking about how, like, if the gender doesn't matter, then why does it matter if it's a choice at all? And
Right.
that's very true. It's like, if the gender doesn't matter, then why are we fussing so much over making it a playable choice? Because if it's not about representation, and if it's not about their gender mattering to the story, for example, Lara Croft being a woman doesn't necessarily matter to the story, not really. And a lot of the time, like for example, Chell in Portal, her gender doesn't matter to the story. She could have been a man, it wouldn't change anything. It's like, so if that's the case, why do we care so much? Besides preference, because preference is opinion. Like for example, you choose to play as female characters in games, and I do myself on occasion. But if that's just preference and not something that is intrinsic to the story, why do we fuss so much about it overall? And I agree. I think that the hysteria over wanting female characters or any kind of character for representation is overstated. At least I think so, anyway.
Alright, I'm gonna pop off now, so night,
All right.
guys.
All right.
Thanks for joining, and thanks for
Good night.
and meanwhile, I will see if there's any questions people have before we bring this to close. In fact, is there anything you guys want to say in particular, like regarding just Gamergate right now? Because as I said earlier, this is like week 7 at the moment. Like, is there anything you want to say?
I think with recent events with Sargon's stream with people's like I've noticed in a couple of streams that people like whenever they get somebody claiming to be an anti-Gamergate person coming into their streams, I notice that they sort of like do these sort of weird debating tactics, you know, where they'll ask them loaded questions. What?
That they're concerned trolls.
Oh yeah, the concern trolls. Yes, I think what we need kind of spread awareness of those type of trolls who come in and will ask loaded questions and basically try to get the streamer to kind of get flustered and then say things that they may not necessarily believe in or things like that.
That's true. I mean, and that's kind of bad as well. That when we're trying to, basically the people who we want to talk to, the proper anti-Gamergate side, not only will they insult us and block us, they don't want to have anything to do with us. And then the quote-unquote moderates are either concerned trolls or people with an agenda. So that is a problem. I don't think we definitely should have debates. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I can see why it's such a problem. It's so hard to find someone to have a civil debate with without it, completely breaking down in communication. Because then you have someone like Cause, who I feel like Cause, he's not a terrible person, but he's very misguided and he has a lot of bias. And then you have someone like that Andrew person on Whiskey Grenade stream, who was a complete clown, who in the first instance said, "I'm just a troll," and then he just completely misrepresented everything, deflected, didn't answer the question, and then he didn't even have all the facts, and he just said, "Whatever, I don't care. I'm just trolling you guys."
Also, I think we need to watch out for more insidious people like that Pixie Gen person. That what's her name, Jenny Goodchild? She didn't seem like at first like a concerned troll. She seemed more aware on the debate. But if you notice what she was doing, like she was asking loaded questions, and then when presented with evidence, she would move the goalposts, things like that. People who are very subtle about it.
It's funny you mention her. She expressed an interest on coming on my stream, and I messaged her. She said to email her. I did. I never got a response. I messaged her several days ago, so I don't know what's happening with that. I mean, maybe after Sargon's stream, maybe she's not interested in coming on. As I said, I don't have a clue. I don't know.
I just really want to talk to one of these people. I don't care if it's a concern troll or like a real one, because it's very difficult to make me angry. So they would have to try really hard, and I just want to see how that would happen.
Yeah, and personally, and I don't think. I mean, disclaimer: I'm no one important. I don't think I'm like the best debater on earth. I don't think I'm someone with a lot of influence. I don't think I'm someone even all that convincing. However, I feel like I want to have a chance to not necessarily talk to them one-to-one, but at least be part of the conversation with these people and level with them, try and sort out the information, get it to make some sense. Because I feel like part of what ends up with you being concerned trolled is being emotional or having your own agenda, and I feel like all of the time they exploit that. They exploit the fact that you're biased. They exploit the fact that you have certain ideas, and they use that against you. And for me, I just want to have an open one-to-one. I just want to talk to this person and level with them. I'm not going to come with an agenda. I'm not going to come with an idea that they're going to pick apart. I just want to say, okay, what are your concerns? How can we talk about it? What do you like about Gamergate? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if that can happen, I think we can all learn from that. And this is why people, despite people warning me that Jenny's a concern troll, or Leanna K for that matter, I'd like to talk to these people because I just want to legitimately talk to them. I don't want to thought police them. I don't want to change their mind. I just want to say, what are your ideas? Here are my ideas. Let's talk about it. Simple.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. And see, we should have thought of this earlier because she's asexual, right? So she would have fit in right in here. This would have been the perfect place for it.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I will admit that their debating tactics, as it were, and the stuff that they say is questionable. I will definitely admit that some of the stuff they've done and said has made me a little bit uncomfortable, but I think that has more to do with who they are as people and the way they talk. Like, it has less to do with loaded agendas or whatever. However, I might be naive. These people might genuinely be out to get us. There's also that possibility.
Well,
I mean-
we'd have to talk to one of them to know.
Well, because she immediately after that stream, she went on Twitter. And she was like, she quoted Sargon when he said like, Gamergate is about feminism, and so that obviously shows her hidden agenda that she wanted to get somebody to say that.
Wait, to say
She
what?
just
Sorry.
wanted to rile someone up enough to say something that she could use out of context.
Yeah, basically. Well, because she was during the Sargon stream, she got him, really flustered, and he said, "Gamergate is about feminism," and then she
Oh,
took
and then
that out of
she
context.
took that in circles. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then when she saw that nobody was really retweeting her or even listening to her, she then backpedaled and said like, "Oh, but I acknowledge that this is just one guy's opinion."
Okay, by the way, I just got a comment. It's you know when I said it's basically saying women will only play female characters, and that's a stupid assumption. It's very patronizing. He then said, in my experience, casual female gamers do prefer playing as female characters. That's true. My
Yeah.
point was that it's stupid to assume that women will only want to play as female characters. I never said don't put female characters in games, because who cares? I'm just saying that the choice of gender is a preference not based on your gender. It's based on your preference as a person. For example, I might be a guy and prefer playing as female characters. Similarly, I might be a girl and prefers playing as male characters. Sorry. The choice of gender is a necessary choice for gamers as a whole. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, straight, male, whatever. That's the whole point. The choice of gender. Yeah, ponykin, Jesus Christ. The choice of gender is arbitrary, and I admit, that sometimes, and it's a bit of a stereotype. I've seen this happen. The casual female player might often gravitate to female characters, but I don't always think it's 'cause they're female. Not all the time. Of
They just
course,
like the
that might-
design.
Exactly. Like, fair enough. Women want to play as women. That's fine. Men want to play as women. Women want to play as men, etc. I just think that to assume that we need women for women is just a little on the patronizing side. We need women for everybody. We need men for everybody. We just need interesting characters. That's the way I see it. I just feel like saying that we need more female characters to appeal to females isn't the right marketing idea. That's just what I think. I mean, because admittedly, sometimes it's a bit of a cliche. Sometimes when you see the occasional female fighting game player come on a fighting game stream, 9 out of 10 times she's going to play a female character. I just think that's coincidence, though. Because not all female fighting game players play female characters. Obviously, for example, there's female player named Choco Blanca. She plays Blanca. It says in the name, And there's another one named Super Yan, and she plays Balrog. Right. So the point is, these women don't just pick female characters because they're female. That's ridiculous. I think that a lot of the time, if a female player is casual or whatever, maybe she might pick a character because it's female. Not all the time though. And I definitely feel like. And even then, I feel I'm not saying this to the comment, by the way. I'm not talking to you, but even then, I feel like it's a little bit patronizing to assume that a woman will always pick a woman if they're a casual player, because then we're kind of saying that women only like women in games, and I don't really think that's fair.
Whenever my mom and I play Mario Kart together, she never plays as a female character. Not because she doesn't want to. Well, no, not because there aren't any, but because she just doesn't want to.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I just don't think that it makes sense. And to be fair, on the other side, I mean, before somebody used false equivalency on me or whatever the crap, on the other side, in games where there's predominantly women or all women, like Arcana Heart, guys still play that. If guys needed guys to play games, we'd never play anything where there's women in it, would we? We wouldn't play Tomb Raider. You know what I mean? If we needed a guy to enjoy something, we wouldn't play it. And then someone might say, oh, but that's because guys like sexualized characters. Well, no, that's not true. Sometimes we just like playing as the character because we like the character. It's not. It doesn't always have to be. I mean, people like to make it seem like the only reason why guys like women is for dirty reasons, and I hate that so much. Of course, that's part of it, but I don't like how they make it seem like everything a guy does has a dirty motivation. You know what I mean? Or go ahead.
And besides, what's wrong with actually finding a character attractive and enjoying it that way. I mean, especially from the woman's side of things. What if a woman found a character attractive? Obviously, that must be wrong as well.
No, well, I think it has more to do with wider society, how female sexuality is treated as pure, innocent, and magical, and male sexuality is treated as disgusting and predatory.
Like we're pretty much just, we'll bang anything in a skirt. That's, that's a misrepresentation of what guys prefer.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, there is absolutely nothing wrong with guys liking it for that reason, because at the end of the day, they're gonna play the character for the character. Like, if they just wanted to stare at it, they wouldn't be playing the game, they'd be staring at it. And that's why I think that's the problem. I feel like, just to me personally, I mean, I mentioned this on the ethnic people of Gamergate stream, where it's like saying that we need black people for we need black characters for black people, or it's like every black person playing DJ from Street Fighter, which doesn't make any sense. And FYI, every black person plays Cammy, so there. Yeah, I said it. Anyway,
that booty though.
Yeah, jokes aside, I think that this stream is reaching its natural end, and since there's no more questions coming in, I think we can wrap it up. So if anyone has anything to add, you can say it now.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
From the creator side of things, I feel that developers should include characters because they genuinely want to include them, not because they feel like they should include them. If they include someone they want to be in the game, then the character will be better written as a result. If you're adding people just because you feel like it would be offensive not to, then they're just going to be stickmen. They're going to be just there for the sake of tokenism.
Yeah, tokenism.
They're there to fill a quota, and that's a weak character. They're just there to exist in the background.
I would never want to do that. I would never want to be in a situation where I create a character because I didn't want a certain demographic feeling left out or offended. I would hate to do that because it means that I didn't create a character I wanted. I got my hand forced, and that's terrible. That's the death of creative freedom in art. Because I'm not saying that in a business I couldn't write a female character. Fair enough. And maybe I'm not saying I couldn't write a good female character if forced to. However, I'd want to create a character I care about, male or female, and I'd hate to do one just because. And to be fair, people think that the solution to games is to just have character choice or character creation all the time. But the thing that people don't get about character creation, if we're not talking about games like Mass Effect, character creation is not lazy. That'd be putting it wrong. It's more like there's no soul in that. Create a character basically means that the character just becomes an avatar. That's not a well-written character. That's a character without a story. That character's you.
We wouldn't even have awesome characters if it was just create a character all the time. We wouldn't have our Samuses. We wouldn't have our our Ryus, or we wouldn't have anybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we didn't have characters with defined stories and defined characteristics, then we'd literally just have cardboard cutouts all the time. And I don't see anything interesting in that whatsoever. And I don't think anyone else would either. That's why I feel like I don't believe that the solution is to have character creation. In my opinion, multiplayer should definitely have character creation if the game suits it. However, if the game doesn't need character creation, it can still have basic selections. For example, do you want to play as a male or female? Like stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Like in Halo.
Yeah, exactly. Multiplayer games with customization. Yeah, you definitely need your male and female. That's fine. You definitely need like stuff like that. However, in like a single player story that isn't like an RPG where you can create your own character, the gender being fixed is fine. I don't think everything needs to have a gender choice. And we definitely don't need it just because, women play games. Like, come on now. Anyway, so with that out of the way, thank you all for turning what could have been a disaster stream into actually a decent stream. So thank you all for coming.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting ride. I would kind of say that with this stream done, this is the last of my planned streams. because obviously I had to do the women one, and I had to do 2 of those. Then I did the ethnic one, and now I've done the LGBT one. So I feel like, other than anything people would want me to do, I guess that's it. And as I say always, I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank you all for contributing to the conversation. It was great talking to you all, definitely. So
It was great being here and listening to your well-articulated statements.
I don't know about that, man. I just talk too much.
Nah, it's nothing like
Yeah,
that.
these are pretty fun.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, if I can say anything, even if I'm not really around for that much longer, I just hope that you guys can take all that you've done here and spread it using an example against the narrative, because the whole point of Not Your Shield, as I'm sure you all realize, is that we're supposed to be proving that we aren't the stereotypes that the media and society wants us to be, that gamers are a diverse group, and that we shouldn't have to be forced into these boxes that they're trying to put us in,
Yeah.
Definitely.
Alright, so with that said, I shall end the stream there. Thank you all for watching, if you've been watching this far. And if you want to ask any questions, tweet at NotYourShield on Twitter. And obviously continue to follow Gamergate and continue to follow Not Your Shield. And yeah, that's it. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye.